This is the moment we waited for. Everything you want is right here. We gon' give them what they came for. We gon' take it up from last year. Shoot 'em a shot, boy, I'm long range. Me and the team on the same thing. Stayed down, never switched up. Only thing changed was the game. I'm in the zone now. Nothing can change what we on now. When I pull up, know it's going down. Foot on the gas, ain't no slowing down. Aiming for greatness, no settling. Kick down the doors, they won't let me in.
What up, all of our Nick of Time family, Knicks Nightcap family. It's your boy Phil at Knicks Nightcap, aka Phil All Caps, aka back in the day, Phil the Prophet. And I am here excited for another episode of the Knicks Nightcap. If you guys can, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, retweet it on Twitter. Also post it on Instagram, Facebook, wherever that you guys know some Knick fans. Invite them over to the party. We will have open panel all night long. So that means that if you want to chop it up with us about any of the topics that we're talking about, you come up immediately. You do not have to wait till the end of the show. We're just going to rock it like this is just an open table at a cafe or a cigar lounge or a whiskey bar. If you want to talk, just come pull up a chair and chop it up with us. I just posted the link in the comments. So this is where you guys can come chop it up with us all night long, open panel all night long. Once again, we are missing our guy Apollo. Like I said last week, continue to keep him, his family, and everything in your prayers. Everything is just going smoothly, and he's enjoying that time with the family. He will be back soon to kick it with us. But luckily for me, I got my guy Al from Harlem. And before I bring him up, I do want to give a little shout out to my guy Al from Harlem, because he came through earlier today to pick up some samples of whiskey for upcoming shows and whatnot. I thought he needed them for tonight, but apparently he already had them, so he's double dipping. He's got he's got Apollo's samples. But it was really cool because we've been talking since he's been on the show just about things that we like. And before he left, he goes, "Oh, I got you this," and he freaking handed me a bottle of this bottle right here, this Jack Daniel's Toasted. If you guys find this is a banger. I know that there was a time where I would crack on some Jack Daniel's bottles and their flavor palettes and everything like that. Didn't really see it as, whiskey worth buying, but they have over these last few years totally did a 180 and have been putting out banger after banger. But this is one that you don't really have to hunt for. Typically you can find them at a good liquor store, or you can find it at Costco, at some Costco's. And so it was really cool because we talked about this bottle a while ago, and he remembered that, and he saw it and he brought it to me and gifted it to me. And I thought that was really, really, just a standout thing for him to do. So I appreciate that guy. And shout out to my son, because Al didn't know this, but my son saw me looking at that at Costco and snuck back in with my wife and purchased it for me for Valentine's Day. So Al and my son, I got my Nick son, and then I got my son's son, who's also my Nick son, and they both looking out for me on the whiskey front. So without further ado, I'm gonna bring up my guy, Mr. Al from Harlem. What up? What
up, man? How you doing?
I'm good, bro. How you doing?
I'm all right, man. How was your Valentine's Day?
It was all right, man. It was chill. It was low key. And we kind of just enjoyed it as a family. We actually, we're waiting to sell that townhome, like I had said previously. And so we ended up selling it 4 days later. So, nice.
Congrats.
So we kept it pretty low key, for then, but it was good. So let people know what's been up with you. How's the week been? How's everything going? Let people know what's up.
I'm on paternity leave, so I'm full-time dad right now. Today I took my baby for her 2-month checkup, and my girlfriend had to work. She was in a meeting, so it was my first time out with the baby on my own. Had to put her in the in the car seat, and then hope to God that she doesn't scream the entire ride, because no one is back there to calm her down. It's just me and her. Luckily, I fed her right before, so when she got in, she just slept the entire time. She got 2 shots today. Took them like a champ. She cried, but then she stopped very quickly after, and then rolled back home without crying too. So it's been great, man. I'm just enjoying my time with my little one. I had, this year I had 4 Valentines, because my mom was here,
Okay.
I got my daughter now, my girlfriend, and then her 10-year-old daughter lives with us.
Nice.
So I was surrounded with 4 girls on Valentine's Day. So I had my 4 Valentines. I bought them all a
That's
bunch of
awesome.
chocolate and stuff. It was fun. It was
That's
nice.
awesome, man. That's so cool. Yeah, man. You know, it's crazy. You said 2 months, and it does not feel like it's been 2 months.
Right?
You know, like I remember, you know, you telling me, "Hey, it could be any day now." You know, like, and I was like, "All right, bet." And now 2 months have gone by. That's freaking awesome. It's cool to see you stepping into this, and now you enjoying that maternity leave. Homeboy was at the gym getting his swole on earlier today. So cool to be in this season. I remember when, you know, my son was born and that first taking that break off and just kind of focusing, and you know, it was just a really
Yeah.
cool experience. You grow so much in those first few months. Like you grow up so
Absolutely.
quickly, you know. So that's awesome,
Absolutely.
man. I'm happy for you, bro.
Thank
So
you.
so she took things like a champ. Speaking of champs, we're going to discuss if we think that this New York Knicks team has the possibility to be champs or not. That to me is the big kind of question right now is what are we expecting from these Knicks? And if you look on any of our social media, you know, friends, families, anybody who follows the Knicks, there's a lot of back and forth of what people really think about this team.
Yeah.
Some are, you know, blue and orange skies to a fault, you know, where
Yeah.
it's like, what are you talking about? Blue and orange skies. It's dark right now, you know, and there's dark
Yeah.
moments, and they still, you know, they don't see the darkness. And if you point out the darkness, you're the issue, you know. Then you got
Yep.
people that are
Yep.
like doom and gloom, bro. Like it's straight up out of a freaking horror movie. You know, they want to trade everyone. They want, you know, everyone to like fall off a cliff on their next travel date. You know, they just hate everything and everyone that is part of this Knicks organization. And I'm like, yo, bro, you are not a fan. Like, calm
Yeah.
down, you know, like you are you are the
That's
opposite of a fan.
That's my guy Don he's in my Knicks chat on my text, and
Oh yeah?
he's blue and orange skies to a fault. I'm kind of like
Oh,
more of the doom and gloom guy right now. I'm like
I
this
got
team
you.
ain't it. This team ain't. But we
I
have all those characters in my group chat right now.
all right, all right. Down the delusional. We'll go with that for the chat, you know, down the delusional. Uh and yeah, bro, shout out to Lee. He said Al's lighting and visuals are crispy, bro. Like worked him
Thank you,
through
Lee.
this, and then I'm the one who doesn't have any time to set up my setup anymore. So now he's looking like the glow up, and I'm just like, I got a show in 10 minutes, gotta set up. So
Yo,
shout out
shout
to
out,
Ali.
by the way, shout out to Lee, who's going to be doing the podcast now with Fansided as well, right? He's going to be the lead
Yep,
guy on there. Big shout out to Lee, man. Congrats, man.
yep.
That's awesome.
Lee,
I can't wait to see it.
Lee's doing big things, man. So shout out to him. Shout out to everything that he's doing over there with his writing and all the opportunities that he's getting over there to make that money. Being a Knick fan, that's what we all dream of, you know, being a Knick fan and actually being able to eat off of it. Not many get to. So shout out to Lee for continuing to move in that direction and make that happen. Don, the link's in the chat. If you at any point feel like you want to talk your talk, you want to tell us why it needs to be orange and blue skies, and why, you know, when it rains Patrick Ewing's and Clyde Wall Frazier's, and everything is beautiful. You can come on up. You can talk that talk. I want to hear that. All right. I want to hear the brighter side of Sears. You know, I want to hear all about it. But let's talk about, you know, it's been a little while since we met, because we met early last week because we had so many games that were going on, and it was
Yeah.
Valentine's, and we didn't want to like be on that, as well as it was Ash Wednesday and our family was going to be there. So we ended up, you know, meeting pretty early last week.
Yeah.
And so this week we get to talk about a lot of games. 4 games have happened since we last chatted, which is crazy to think that 4 games have passed. So let's go with the first one. And to me, this is one that I feel like it's going to be a big point of conversation. It's a big point of conversation with me and, you know, the KOT family. You know, even today we were talking about this topic. And so it's the Detroit Pistons. So we went up against the Pistons. They did not have Duran, which is the number 2 option. They didn't have Stewart. Both of those guys decided that they wanted to like be Ryu and Ken. In the game before that, they got suspended before the All-Star game, and so they didn't play against us. And yet we still lost 126 to 111. And you know what's crazy, bro? Is I say that score, but that score sounds gracious to what it actually looked like watching that game. Like it makes it seem like it was a lot more of a competitive game than it really was. So that game was kind of frustrating to watch. And if you read some of the stats, you got freaking Caden Cunningham went for 42 points.
Yeah.
That's crazy. 42 points from Cade, 13 assists from Cade alone. Like that's crazy. 13 assists from Cade, 8 rebounds. Like the guy did it all. 2 blocks, 1 steal. Like he was everywhere. And then the next guy that helped out the most was Paul Reed with 18, then down to Thompson with 10, to Harris with 11, and Thompson with 10. And us, on the other hand, we had Karl Anthony Towns with an okay game of 21, Jalen Brunson with 33 points, and then Landry Shamet with 15. But it was hard to watch, in my opinion. I want to hear your thoughts first before I break down my opinion of that game. So what did you see, maybe pros and cons of that
Yeah.
Pistons game?
When the game started, Detroit showed up with that Detroit bad boy physicality. And I thought the Knicks were also playing physical. I was kind of happy to see that they finally stepped up their physicality. In the end, Detroit was still more physical than us, but I thought the Knicks answered the call in terms of the physicality at the beginning. But then their physicality just took us out of our game. Like we couldn't hit our shots and all that kind of stuff. We couldn't stop Cade. Like OG couldn't stop Cade. He took turns cooking everyone on the Knicks.
Yep.
He cooked OG. He like literally looked and hunted for Mikal Bridges on one play, which was insane to watch. The other thing that I noticed a lot was Asar Thompson. We put Brunson on Asar Thompson, and he was hunting Brunson. Like they were putting him in the paint, and he was trying to like just back him down, and things were opening up off of that
Yeah.
for them. So his stat line doesn't look that crazy, but he opened up a lot of their offense, I thought, because they hunted Brunson a lot. And I think to a deeper extent, they also did it to Alvarado when he
Yep.
came in. But yeah, this was a game that we kind of had circled on the calendar. Even Mike Brown kind of said that this was an important game. So for us to fall flat is very troubling. This is a team that we're going to have to go through to get to the finals, and they've stomped on us. And this caused a lot of conversations in the group chat because you have the blue and orange sky guys that are like, well, last year Boston beat us every single time, and we ended up beating them in the playoffs. So only the playoffs matter. But
Yeah.
it's like, man, if you're not watching this, like you're not seeing what's happening, like we're getting punked. And like to think that we're not gonna to think that it's just gonna all of a sudden, like a flick of a switch is gonna happen in the playoffs. Like, first of all, this is a young team that's building and building and building confidence against us.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be harder and harder and harder when we do see them. And on top of that, they're not scared of us. They want to see us. So this game left me very concerned, man. Extremely concerned.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what's crazy? I see your guy Don back here, so I'm gonna bring him up. It says they will not connect their mic. Oh, it says that you're not connected with your microphone or your cam yet, Don. So if you want to talk, let me know and I'll get you coming up. But you know what was crazy about that game is, like you said, no matter what we threw at Cade, it was like a one-man show. Like nobody could stop him. There's times where you're like, yo, pass the ball, to a certain player, like stop ball hogging. But when you have that green light all night long, it's like, don't give up the ball. Like you have, full authority to continue doing what you're doing because no one on the other team can stop you. and yet he still had 13 assists. That to me is what makes me go, how can you not think this player is elite? Like,
Yeah.
you have to look at him and say, okay, a guy that can get 40 something and still have 13 assists and some of the best stats on his team defensively, he's got to be in MVP talks. Like, he
Yeah,
has to.
that day I was like, crap. I was like, they have the best player on the floor.
They do.
He's
And I
better
know
than
that's going
Brunson.
to piss off a lot of Knick
Yeah.
fans, but shout out to my guy Lee in the chat, because we were in the KOT chat ourselves, and we were just like, regardless of what Jalen's been able to do and get his team further in the playoffs in the past, just looking player to player right now, there is no way you can watch this season and not say that Cade Cunningham is the best player when the Knicks and Pistons play. He is the best player by far on the court. Better shooting percentages, better contribution on both ends of the court, and most of all, makes his teammates better. Like, regardless of what you think of certain players in the past, you talk to the team, their teammates, and when they say this player made me better, you know the caliber of that player, because a real star can be a star and still make their team better. And we've seen glimpses of that with Jalen, but then we've seen not glimpses, unfortunately, of that with Jalen. With Cade, that is a consistent thing that you see from Cade, and it's been a huge reason that the Pistons have made the extreme jump that they've made this year. And so if you look back, regardless of whether they thought he was a jerk or not, people were like, Michael Jordan made me better. Being on his team, regardless of if I like how he talked to us or if I liked, his arrogance towards me, he made me a better player. Like, you hear that time and time again. You hear, you hear Wade talk about Jordan versus LeBron, and how one of the things that makes Jordan better was that Jordan made his teammates better, but that you didn't see that where LeBron has gone from place to place to place. Like, those are people that played with LeBron that can say that kind of stuff. So when I look at Cade and I look at how he has truly been a star in himself, but also making everyone else around him better, then that's crazy, especially because a lot of people say there is no real number two with the Pistons. Like, who's their real number two offensively? And I'm like, that makes it even more of an elite player of Cade, that even without a clear number two, he's able to make his players good enough around him and better to still be where they're at and doing what they're doing. So huge shout out to Cade for that, because he cooked us. But a few things that I want to talk about is, like you said, this is the team we would have to play through to get to the next spot, right? In the playoffs. Like, they're the gatekeepers right now, according to what it looks like in the season. And it doesn't look like it's going to change anytime soon. The only way that doesn't happen is if we get lucky and some like low tier friggin' play-in team gets them, and gets the best of them in 7 somehow. But otherwise, it would be us versus them. So the question is, and the question that we've all been chatting about in the KOT chat is, can we beat the Pistons in a 7-game series? Some of us don't think that currently what we've seen would have us beating the Pistons. And I'm one of those. Based off of what we've seen, does that mean it's not possible? I'm never going to say that. I believe in my team. I'm a Knicks fan. I'm a root for my team until they're out of the playoffs. But based off of what we've seen so far, I would say no. And here's why, and then I want your thoughts, okay?
Yeah.
First, who is stopping Cade? Like, at the end of the day, Cade has played against us when we're healthy, and he continues to cook each and every single one of our players. From our best defender to our least defender, he can cook, and he's proven that time and time again. We've thrown double teams at him. We've thrown triple teams at him. He finds a way to navigate through or find his teammates that aren't the number 2 options. Like, he's been able to rise to that occasion time and time again. What I said today in the chat is that we have not seen them with Duren, and yet they've been able to cook with a one-man show. Like, if you have to put someone as their actual number 2, it would be Duren. You look at the numbers, he's averaging, I think it's 18 points and 11 rebounds this season. Is 18 points an astronomically high number? No. But if they're beating us by 15 to 30, 40 plus already
Without
in games, you add an extra 18 points, and that's a difference. That you add another 11 rebounds, that makes a huge difference. And so no one is, going right now. If you look at their options, Cade is finding people, but not anyone that is worth demanding attention, right? So
yeah.
what do you see? You see the wings kind of double team them, or a wing come and help one of our guards, or Cat step out to try to help, or Mitch step out to try to help. You can't do that with Duran chilling in the paint. Like, you can't just leave Duran open so that you can double and triple team Cade Cunningham. And for people that don't think he has much of a ceiling, even though their like centers didn't play tonight, they still he still went for 29 points tonight in their win against OKC. Yesterday in their win against OKC, he went for 29. So that's a possibility. So what are your thoughts on, do you think that this Knicks roster right now can go up against Cade Cunningham?
Right now, I don't think we can beat the Detroit Pistons, unfortunately. And what's funny is last year, the whole Knicks community was scared of the Pistons, right? Remember going into the playoffs last year, they were like, oh my God, the Pistons, they're so good, they're going to beat us. And I was like, yo, the Pistons, I'm not worried about them because they're inexperienced. We got the experience, we're going to beat them. Well, now this year, they have the experience. So now I'm a little bit more worried about them. And the funny thing is that now that I'm worried about them, I feel like the Knicks, a big part of the Knicks community is like, it's just the Pistons. We already beat them last year. Like, I'm not worried about them. And I would caution you to think that way, because they've really put the beats on us so far this year, and they seem like they have our number. So we'll see. One of the things that I wanted to mention, you said like, who's going to stop Cade? The big question I have is like, where are you going to hide Brunson? Because they tried to hide him on Ausar Thompson, and they actually initiated a lot of offense that way in the last game. So, okay, so now we know that if we put him on Ausar Thompson, they're probably going to try to spam that post-up game, and he's going to try to bully him. So do you go with that and then keep bringing double teams? Because we were double teaming Ausar Thompson at times.
Yeah.
And that was putting us in rotation. So then do you try something else and hide him on like Duncan Robinson shoot right over him? It's just that's like my big question is like, where are we going to hide Brunson in this matchup? So we'll see, man. Can we beat them? I think, our ceiling is pretty high. We can probably beat any team or almost any team in the NBA, but are we going to reach that ceiling is the question. This team is madly inconsistent. How do they become consistent over a 3-series stretch in the playoffs to get to the finals? How can they do that? I don't know. They haven't really showed us that they can.
Yeah. And it's crazy because if you look at this stretch of games, this was probably Brunson's better game of the recent ones that we've seen, shooting percentage wise and everything like that. But a lot of other players.
The big problem with his game here in Detroit is he has 6 turnovers, which is uncharacteristic of Jalen Brunson too.
And that's where the problem comes. When you look at a team that has another player of his stature and accolades and like credibility and is being talked about in the ways that he's being talked about, he tends to go for a tit for tat kind of game. Like it becomes the this versus this show. And we cannot do that against the Pistons. If this becomes a Cade versus JB show, we're done. We're like, my guy Leaf said, we'd be out in 5. And I agree with that. Like, if we go Brunson versus Cade, that's an issue. If the fact that we can say that they don't have an actual number 2, and yet we know that we have a number 2 who is an all-star, who has been like all NBA teams, in his career, has been known as the best shooting big in the history of the game. If we have that and they don't even have a number 2 and they're still spanking us, there's an issue. Where's that issue? The 1v1.
There was a report that came out that I saw today that measured like inconsistency. And there's Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby rank in the top 10 most inconsistent players in the NBA. And in this game, OG went like 3 for 13.
Yeah, it was
And
horrible.
OG has been really bad since the toe injury. I
Yep.
don't know if that's the toe still messing with him. Bridges was 4 for 9 in this game, but it was 8 points and 0 for 3 from 3. Like it was, he shot well, but like, was it impactful? No.
No.
So we're gonna go as far as I think those two guys can, and Cat can take us, because we know what we're gonna get from Brunson. Brunson's big game, post game riser. I mean, playoff riser, right? Like he's gonna show up in the playoffs. We know that. But what are the other guys gonna do? Because if we get in the OG 3 for 13, we're not winning, bro. We can't. Like he can't do that. He has to show up, and so does Mikal.
I agree. And we'll talk about that in a second. I want to give a shout out to the people in the chat. Shout out to Don. He's about to talk in a second. Shout out to our guy Lee. Shout out to Dan Lit. Seems like he's a Spurs fan. So what up? What up? Shout out to my guy Danny Landis in the building. Shout out to Junior. He said, we fell in love with JB and everyone is now afraid of saying that he as the captain is the problem. He's a liability on defense and plays best when Hart feeds him the ball. JB needs to lose minutes. I don't know about the losing minutes thing, but the accountability thing, I completely agree with you on. That's one thing me and Lee were talking about today was if you are our greatest player and we truly think the ceiling of you, like the highest ceiling of you, then you deserve the criticism because we're putting you on that pedestal because we think that you have all of this to offer. So when you don't, there's going to be critique. Why? Because we expect more of the people that we put in high regard, the people that we know have a high ceiling. If someone's got a low ceiling, I'm not going to like criticize much because they're doing what they do and that's what I expect of them. But with JB, I expect so much more. I've seen so much more, but I'm not seeing it now. And that's the issue. That's where the critique comes. But when you got orange and blue skies or like your version of Knicks beer goggles and you can't see and talk anything negative about Brunson, I become a hater, even though he's my favorite player on the team. I don't get it. Shout out to Gregory in the building. Appreciate you being here. He says Bridges needs to be the sixth man and not in the starting lineup. We are definitely going to talk about that. Some things he was talking about Sohan. So I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to throw it to Don. One thing I talked about is if we get them in the series, this is going to be Mike Brown's biggest challenge as a coach, is how do I become creative with our roster? Because what I'm thinking is the addition of Alvarado and the addition of Sohan at least help us. But Alvarado with his defense is great, but his height is still an issue against a player like Cade. So I would think of something like start with the starting lineup. And if Cade starts to cook, then move Josh to play bench minutes and allow Sohan to come in and play Cade Cunningham. Sohan is probably one of our most physical defenders. And even if he can't fully stop Cade, he can frustrate the living daylights out of him. And so I want to see Mike Brown make situations like that happen that at least give us a contending chance. And we'll talk more about the other players in a second. But what up, Don? Nice to have you up here.
Fellas.
How you doing, bro?
I'm doing well. Thank you both for having me.
Of course. So you got Al over here saying that you see through non-realistic goggles, but I'm gonna give you an opportunity to speak your talk since I don't know you too well. What are your thoughts on this, bro? Like, do you
think
really
we're gonna
think
beat
that
Detroit?
Well, if you allow me just a moment to chat with you both, I would like to say, Phil, Al, y'all look amazing on the camera. Everything's looking great.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
I would like to start with, like, yes, I am one of those Knicks fans that feel the sky is not falling. Like, I don't feel how can I put this? I'm gonna try to communicate this to everybody as clear as I can, because like I just I don't have the same fear or sense of panic. Now let's go with the Detroit matchup, right? I'm not saying that Detroit hasn't gained a ton of experience from last year, going through that playoff series loss, adding more talent, obviously a lengthy lineup up and down. But I'll say this for them: I'm not gonna knock any of the talent, productivity, or whatever efficiency. it's a long road. It takes a lot to get to that to the pinnacle, right? To get to the mountaintop. Same thing with Boston, right? Like we win in that series against Boston last year, and you know Tatum goes down. It takes a lot to get to the pinnacle. So that's one thing. The second thing I want to say, I'm gonna address like the Mike Brown thing because Mike Brown has 59 games as a coach in New York City. 59 games. You understand what I'm saying? Matching almost the same efficiency and productivity ratings as Tom Thibodeau did. I'm talking about last year in comparison. So I'm
Yeah.
not going to go with the first half a decade. Tom Thibodeau spent a half a decade with us. You know what I'm saying? He had one bad season, and he had a lot of great work as a Knicks head coach. But it was just something about Tom that didn't get us over the top.
Yeah.
Right? We don't know what it is, right? Like we can put. I know what I'm going to point to the minutes because I'm one of those guys that was like the minutes police with Thibodeau,
Me
running
too.
guys in the ground. I was
Yep.
a
So
minutes police guy.
what are you seeing from Mike Brown that makes you think he's gonna get us over the top?
I'm not seeing as much fall off. I'm not seeing the fall off. What I'm seeing with Mike Brown, his fault, and I'll put this in the chat earlier. What I see with him is his situational awareness, and I think Phil alluded to this just a moment ago, is not great. There
Yep.
are matchups, obvious physical matchups that we will be exploited in, and he doesn't know how to like. He doesn't have a great counter chess move, right? Like, so it gets up. We're put in tight situations. I don't know like the level of language I'm gonna use on here, but it just gets us into like tight situations, right? Like, so that's my knock on Mike Brown. It's just like he doesn't know where to put the pieces when we need them.
Yeah,
That's
he seems
bad.
like he's scrambling with the rotations a lot of times.
Yeah.
That's the other side of having like an expanded rotation, right? Like you just don't know where to put folks, and we can't have that in half court basketball in the playoffs. We can't have that.
Yeah.
That's a mismatch all day. That's a first, second round exit. That puts us right back in the place that we were 2-3 seasons ago, right? So I get that.
Yeah. Okay.
Another thing is like one more thing, Phil.
Yeah.
I don't see that much fall off from player productivity. There are categories where people are struggling, but it's not across the plane. And I can say that we are the number 6 defense in this league. As of right now, our defense efficiency is rated number 6. That's not a bad place to be. You know what I mean? Like, so we're not giving up. We give up points in bad places, in bad situations, but we're not a bad defensive team. And that's something that I'm glad that we didn't lose that identity from Tibbs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So here's the thing I'd say about Mike Brown. And I see my guy, Greg, in the chat. He's putting out some heat. So we're going to talk about some of the things that he's talking about. He said the main issue with Mike is that he never established an identity or culture for this team. And here's the thing. I want to push back on that. Okay. This is one thing that we talked about as the KOT family, where you have to look at the situation given and judge based off of the situation given. Okay. The person that didn't give us any time or any way to create an identity coming into this season was not the coach. The coach was brought in after the roster was already constructed. You look at most coaches, they at least have some kind of say on this is where where I want to take this team. Let's get some pieces that can implement that. He never got that. Like Leon Rose waited way too late to pull the trigger on a coach. He booked and signed a bunch of players like Yabu. Thank God he got us off the Yabu contract. But players like that might have fit a Tibbs system in the past, but not going forward with where the coach was going to be. So I feel like there's an issue there because you don't give the person a bunch of like squares, tell them to put it in a circle hole, and then blame them that it doesn't fit. Like there has to be some, accountability to Leon Rose for poorly constructing that relationship between this is what our roster looks like and this is Mike Brown's way of doing things, and realizing that those were pretty far apart. So the fact that we're even seeing them come closer together throughout the season, I think is a win. I think it's actually a win that you can completely turn a team's identity on their head, how they play the game of basketball, and it's still not completely fall apart in that first year. So I got to give Mike Brown some credit in that. And if you look, yeah, what's up, Al?
I wanted to jump in on that because I have a little bit of a pushback on that. I think when it comes to Jalen Brunson and how we're not playing fast, how he wants to play fast, then you can point to the roster and say, like, look, like, this is not probably how Mike Brown would have constructed this team, given that he wants to play fast, and Cat isn't a fast person either, right? So, like, this roster isn't conducive to us playing fast. Now, you see when Jose Alvarado comes in, he speeds the game up, and that opens up so much stuff when he's going fast. And that Houston game, him going fast and playing fast is what opened up that game. But what I was going to say is Mike Brown knew what he was getting when he got here, and Leon Rose was certainly looking for a coach that was going to maximize the Jalen Brunson-Cat duo, and he has not solved that riddle. Neither did Tom Thibodeau, but he knew that coming in, that was one of the top things that he had to do, even if they're not his type of players. He took the job knowing that that was his charge, and he hasn't been able to answer that bell. So that's one of the problems that I have with Mike Brown, is that he still hasn't been able to unlock JB and Cat as a duo.
And I understand that, but here's the thing, that I would say with that is you also have to give some player accountability there, because we have seen moments where they buy into the system and it looks good. And then you have moments where they don't and it looks bad. And so, like you said, Alvarado, that's a piece that fits that system. And this is why I have to say, okay, you can't completely, judge Mike Brown on that, because he has still been able to work with the fact that those players didn't completely absorb that system. Like, look at you. You're living with your girl. You got a daughter now, right? So before you and her lived together, how many years of life did you live?
39.
39. You had a way of doing things, right?
Yeah.
She had a way of doing things, right?
Yeah.
When you guys came together, did you have expectations of how things were going to be, because that's how you've always done them?
Well, I expected some compromise, some changes.
Some compromise, but it was a lot more than you expected, isn't it?
Yeah.
And probably her too.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so any relationship requires a compromise of both parties. Okay. And I feel like Mike Brown has done a pretty decent job being willing to back off on the it just needs to be fast mentality, and has worked with different rosters, has worked with different players to try to figure it out, even if it isn't a fast-paced roster. And I feel like it's taken the team more time to adjust than his willingness to then adjust. So I got to give him some credit there, because every relationship, it takes two people to compromise what they're supposed to do to make it work. So real quick, before we go into it, man, I love the things that I'm seeing in the chat right now. Greg, so many topics that you're just word vomiting in the chat. All those things are actually going to come up very, very soon. But before we do, I'm excited. All right. As you guys know, I'm in the whiskey influencer space, which is why I decided, hey, what do I do to make my Knicks show something that I like a little bit more? Ooh, whiskey, and I was like, let's merge those two worlds that barely really hang out with each other. And when I first started talking about it, people were like, oh yeah, I like Captain and Coke. I'm like, that's not what I'm talking about, buddy. But we'll get there, we'll grow together. And so as we've been doing this show, I've been able to introduce brands. I've been able to introduce the Knicks community to some, whiskey writers, which are like our beat writers. And we've been able to just collaborate with people in the whiskey scene and introduce you to a lot of awesome brands. And so today's a little bit different, because I'm not bringing up a brand in the sense of like, this guy's a distiller or this guy's a blender. I'm actually introducing another whiskey influencer. And the reason I'm doing that is because, first, the dude's a freaking G. Like, he's just a good dude, and knows his stuff. He's also a writer, and puts out some really, really dope content. Drink Hacker is a place that you can go see some of his writings. But he gives great reviews. He's got 33,000 people that follow him because he knows his whiskey and he knows what he's talking about. But he's also a place where it's like, you ever go into a store and it's like a consignment store of like all your favorite streetwear, and you're like, oh, this guy's not the streetwear, but it's the place that you can get all the best streetwear. He's got a site called Coming Whiskey where you can read all of his blogs and stuff like that. But he also partners with brands and allows them to host their bottles on his site and order directly through there so that people can get their whiskey from different places. And so when I was like, who can I invite up? And then I was like, yo, I'm going to invite Jake. I'm going to bring Jake, see if he wants to do it. And he was like, yes. And so I allowed Jake to completely tell me which brands we needed to highlight. He said, what about these 4? Pick from there. And I was like, all right, these 2 sound the best. And so I'm excited to have Jake come up, talk about what he's been doing, talk about these bottles. Not even sure he cares or like can tell you, who's in the NBA. But that's where we make it uncomfortable for him for a little bit. And he just has to sit through some basketball talk until we drink the next pour. But I'm excited. This is my guy, Coming Whiskey. I'm posting his Instagram link right now. I want you all to stop what you're doing and head over to his Instagram right now and follow him. And then I'll bring him up. So I'm giving you guys a second. All right, real quick. Pick up your phones, type it in. All right, Instagram.com/Coming Whiskey, COMING WHISKEY. And you will find a little logo that kind of looks like, where's it at? Kind of looks like, I know I got it somewhere. Maybe not. I thought I had your logo. I failed miserably. Gotta forgive me. It is, but I'm trying to put his logo right here so that everyone can see it. It says I put it there like 3 times and it's not letting me showcase it. So I'm probably just gonna move.
Wait, I was already following him. Nice.
Look at that, Al. You already know the people that I want to highlight. Proud of you, Al. All right. Here we go. I just screenshotted it. It's a little lower quality, but it is what it is. All right. So without further ado, I'm going to bring up my guy, Coming Whiskey. We're going to enjoy this first sample and then talk a little bit more about the Knicks. So without further ado, welcome my guy, Jake Kipper.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here tonight and looking forward to this.
Jake, help me. Is it Kipper, Kuiper? Am I saying it right?
It is Kuiper, but I feel like I've been called Kipper way more often in my life than I have Kuiper. So I just kind of accept it at this point.
That's crazy. Yeah, yo, you seriously, like, you have the like bass voice of a 90s R&B artist. Like, you talk like some of them would sing, like, hey girl, how you doing? Like, yo, I love it.
Yeah, that's I was probably about, I don't know, 10 years old when I would answer the phone and people stopped calling me ma'am on the phone. So yeah, it's I've been told that my voice doesn't exactly match my body, but yeah, I get those comments quite a bit, and everyone always asks, are you on the radio? And I'm not, but thankfully I do have these occasional podcast live appearances to I don't know, put the voice to good use, I guess.
Yeah, no, I love it. Sometimes I still get that ma'am thing, so I gotta, when I go through Taco Bell, I'm like, let me get cinnamon twist. I gotta base it up a little bit. So I feel you. You stopped at 10 and I'm still going at 41. So yeah, my luck. It is what it is. So Jake, let people know a little bit about you and what your role is in this whiskey community. Shout out to my big brother in the chat. My brother said that's a country sounding voice right there, like a country singer with the what was that one that won the thing in American Idol? Oh man, I'm gonna find out that guy's voice. But yeah, anyway, shout out to my brother. I'll see him tomorrow, flying to North Carolina to see him for his birthday. But Jake,
nice.
People a little rundown about your whiskey journey.
All right, so let's see. One, I legitimately view myself as a whiskey geek, just like everybody else. I realized that over the last maybe 10 years now, I've built a platform, but I look around and this all still feels very surreal. I suppose it kind of started. I've lost track of time, but well, in 1992, I was 10 years old. My father passed away from cancer. I turned 44 in about a month and a half.
Okay.
I'm 9 years ago. I've lost track. My mom told me, "Oh, by the way, I saved the last bottle of bourbon that your dad opened before he died."
Wow.
It would have been probably at some point in 1992. He died in November. Um, Speaking as back to basketball terms, I'm a diehard Kentucky basketball fan. So the fact that Duke game against Kentucky, the Lightner shot, was the last game I ever got to watch with my dad, it
Wow.
haunts me to this day. But all right, so my dad, passed away in '92. Opened this bottle of Makers. 20-something years later, my mom said, "Do you want it?" And I mean, hell yeah. At that time, I was a craft beer drinker. I was kind of obsessively all into craft beer. And then all of a sudden, as a Kentuckian, I didn't really know much about whiskey, which is probably not acceptable for Kentuckian, but suddenly I held this standard bottle of Makers, but in '92, Makers was the top shelf stuff. We hadn't had this renaissance yet, so my dad did drink the good stuff. I held this bottle, about 3/4 full, took a small sip, and I felt really connected to my dad. Decades after he passed, and in that moment, I kind of decided I'm going to save the rest of this bottle until my twin sons turn 21, and I'm going to share a pour with them on their 21st birthday. Share a pour of their grandpa's bottle they never got to meet. My sons turn 14 this year, so I've still got several years to go. But it connected me. I just thought this is a way to connect with my dad decades after he passed. But I do nothing. So I picked up a book by Clay Eisen, and I liked it. And it turns out that I tend to be obsessive about things. If it doesn't show through, my social media and what I write and whatnot, I like details. I like knowledge. I like knowing everything about everything I do. So one book turned into another one and another one, and another one, and I think I'm at like 519 books now on American beverage alcohol history. I know it's not normal, but it interests me, and I want to know all that I can.
Yeah.
So the more I understand anything, the more I appreciate it. The same goes for whiskey. So at the time, I was heavily active on Twitter, back before Twitter kind of became a wasteland. And I had this idea that I was going to live tweet my books. Things that I found interesting, condensing those into tweetable factoids. And it drew quite a following on Twitter, in a very niche community, the whiskey community. But I shared that knowledge. And then at some point, I was asked by Malt Review, which has since kind of gone under, if I would be interested in writing whiskey book reviews for them. So I did. And then they said, well, you're going to write the book review. Can you write a review of a whiskey while you're at it? Looking back at some of those whiskey reviews, come a long way. Not the greatest. But somewhere in there, on Twitter, there was an account, Skew Eats, that posted some of the more interesting labels, what I now know to be the TTB website. For those who are not familiar, the TTB is a federal branch. It is the Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau. Every single beverage alcohol that is sold in the United States, beer, wine, Boone's Farm, whiskey, vodka, whatever, every single label, even imports, have to be submitted to the federal government, and they are examined. Things that have to be there, and things that can't be there, they determine that. Now, once those labels are approved by the federal government, they get posted to a public domain website that is not user-friendly. You don't end up there by accident. And if you do end up there by accident, good luck figuring out how to navigate it on your own. But somebody showed me how to navigate it. So I thought, well, this guy on Twitter is doing kind of the big hitter labels, and I really geeked out about it. Started showing my friends, and then I posted the Weller single barrel label on a Facebook whiskey group. People went nuts over it. I thought, okay, people care about this, so let's do it to Instagram. So first label I ever posted was beginning of February 2020, and it was a Sagamore Spirit Calvados finish. And honestly, I kind of thought it was just going to be for like whiskey geeks like me, and it is. Never really anticipated the fact that like the industry would be interested in it, marketing companies, PR, the people part of the industry, that they would be just as interested in it as I am. And you know, the TTB website, it's a window into the future. These labels hit usually at least 3 months before going to market. So if you know where to look, like I'm posting what's coming well before any press release comes out. And I'm telling you where your money is going in the future. Industry insiders look at what everyone else is doing and what trends there are. And also interesting, there have been times when people have like brands have posted labels, and they've been problematic. They've been some PR problems, and they've received feedback through my platform, and they were able to change course before going to market.
Wow.
So that's there. And then on to Drink Hacker, when the malt review kind of went under, which Drink Hacker said, "Hey, we see you are available right now. Do you want to come write for us?" So I did, and I've been there since April 2024, and I love what I get to do there.
It's awesome. I love it. I love, you know, the fact that like it started with just a passion, which is where things should start. You know, like at the end of the day, it's like if I'm no longer passionate about this, if I'm no longer passionate about whiskey, that's when my time there is over, you know, and that's where sometimes it's like when your creative passion becomes like your sole job, you kind of rob yourself, because then you aren't just doing it anymore because you love it. You know, you're doing it because it now pays the bills. But what about if it's now paying the bills, but you don't enjoy it anymore? You know, or because it paid the bills, you did a lot more than you really enjoyed doing. And now you've lost the passion for what you had. And so for me, I love watching people be like, you know, they come on here and some are like, yeah, you know, I still have my 9 to 5, you know, like um when we had who was it on here? Oh, Dave Thomas Teo. When he came on, he's like, no, you know, this isn't my main thing. Like, yeah, I make some doing this and writing and like traveling and doing tastings and stuff. He's like, but my main thing is I'm still in arts district, you know, I'm still in the theater field and stuff like that. And so I love that, because it's like so many times as a creative myself, that creative thing that I love has become a career. And then like 6 years in, I'm just like, oh man, you know, like I don't love this as much anymore, but now it pays the bills, so I have to do it, you know. But I lost love for it because it was a duty. It wasn't a passion anymore. So I love that. I love seeing that.
And I think that is something that not everyone realizes. That's a very real thing. You know, I work a 9 to 5 job. Well, 8 to 4:30. Yeah, I mean, I work a full-time job. You know, I'm a father. I mean, I'm married, have a father of 2 teenage sons. I'm very active in their life. You know, I am a busy individual. There's not a lot of downtime. I do love this, but you know, there was a point early on for Instagram, when I started doing reviews, like my backlog was like 50 different things to review, and that's not I mean, it may sound cool at first, but like it's very much work. And you know, yeah, like I get to taste a lot of fun things, but there are very few nights that I get to sit down and just drink. It's usually sitting down to think and, you know, analyze what I'm tasting, and I mean, I enjoy it, but like tonight, you know, I'm just gonna actually sip something and not have to not think about it, and that's fun.
And I love that.
Yeah,
I love that. You know, it's funny because one thing that being a whiskey / spirits influencer has really ruined for me is going out to dinner. Because whenever I see like a whiskey price or a cocktail price, I know exactly how much that bottle is or how much the ingredients of that cocktail, and the fact that I can make like 14 of those for the price that that place is charging me for. And so I'm like, in my mind, I automatically go and I'm like, nope, no, I'll just wait till I get home. Like I can't enjoy it.
I very rarely buy bourbon out because, like I said,
Yep.
at best case scenario, that one glass is a third of the price of the bottle.
Yep.
It's just, I tell my wife, it's just more cost effective if I just buy the whole bottle and
Exactly,
take it
right.
home. I'm saving myself 9 pours. I mean, she
Yeah.
doesn't buy that, but I mean,
Hey,
it's
sometimes
bourbon
my
math.
wife does buy it.
Bourbon math.
I'll say this before we go into the next pour, then talk a little bit more basketball for the non-whiskey drinkers. But I was at a restaurant the other day that I was working, did some work for back in the day, did some photo and video for them. And so I was there connecting with them again. Me and my wife were celebrating that we just sold our townhome, and they had a bottle of Bomberger's PFG. And I was like, man, that's one that I hate that I never was able to actually get my hands on, and have in my own collection. So I ordered a pour, and I was like, typically I don't, but it's a celebration night. We're going to do it. And so I did. And I pulled, their wine sommelier, who's also in charge of all their spirits. And I was like, yo, Pete, like, what is this bottle available? Like, what do I have to do? And he was like, let me see what I can do. So it had like 50% of it left, or like 60%. And he came over and was like, I can do it for 45 for you. And I was just like, put it on the table right now. Like, take it off the shelf right now. And my wife looked at me. She's like, you just made that decision real quick. And I said, yes, I did. I'm sorry I didn't ask you. But like, this one's been off the market for a long time, pulled up, all the resellers and all the Instagrams and Twitters and Facebook posts. And I was like, listen, the cheapest you're finding a full bottle of this right now is $5.20 on like Showroom Society right now. Like, let's be real. I need to purchase this. She was like, all right, bet. So shout out to wifey. But let's go into the first pour real quick, and then we'll talk of everybody else. Shout out to my girl Ebony in the chat. She is one of the best ladies in the game, not just like as a lady, but one of the best basketball minds in the Knicks content creation. And she's also a huge whiskey fan. So shout out to my girl, Ebony. All right. So we're going to go into this first Old Glory. And so tell me a little bit about this, because honestly, before you had told me that this was one worth checking out, I didn't know too much about this brand at all.
All right, so Old Glory, they are located in Clarksville, Tennessee, which is right on the Kentucky border.
Yep.
And they are Fort Campbell. It's the airborne 101st Airborne Division of the Army. So
Okay.
and so the distillery that is located there. So they certainly do pull from a lot of that personnel. Relatively new distillery. I like them a lot, though, and I get their distribution. Their physical distribution isn't particularly wide yet, which is why when I realized how much I liked them, I jumped at the chance to get them in the Coming Whiskey store, which means that they can be shipped to you DTC. I thought this was something people needed to experience. So I first became acquainted with them through, maybe it was 2024. They won one of the top medals at the American Craft Spirits competition.
Okay.
And granted, I know the shortcomings and the pitfalls of all those tasting competitions, but I still look at them. And if they win the top awards, I'll pay attention. But I hadn't tried them. So in 2024, late 2024, my wife and we visited Casey Jones Distillery that day in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. And we were going to go shopping afterward. And she's like, and we went to the shopping, and she says, there's not much here. I'm bored. What else do you want to do? And she said, are there any other distilleries that are close by? And I'm like,
nice.
You serious? I mean, we weren't planning on this, but I mean, there is one like 30 minutes away. Let's go. So made an impromptu trip down to Clarksville, Tennessee, and toured it. And it's a beautiful place. It's a lot bigger than most people realize. They are doing a good amount of contract distillation right now. And they are doing Tennessee whiskey. They're doing bourbon, which I know the same thing, but they have the Lincoln County process bourbon and the not Lincoln County process bourbon. And on the tour, we tried their 90 proof 2 to 3 year stuff, and I wasn't particularly impressed with it. And then afterward, we got to the bottled and bond, and also got one of the single barrels here, a little higher
Okay.
proof. And I thought, oh, this is completely different. We hit that 4-year mark. The single barrel, I think it's like 5 years, almost 5 years. Completely different stuff, and I really enjoyed it. Took a bottle home of the bottled and bond bourbon and the single barrel cask strength bourbon, and just thought it was fantastic stuff. And I immediately approached them about being carried in my store, getting set up with Mash Networks, which is who kind of organizes all of it.
Okay.
And I think they are one of the better kept yet undiscovered secrets out there.
Okay.
But they are doing
Awesome.
a lot of contract distillation, so people know they do make good whiskey.
Okay. All right. So everything's done in-house with these guys, right? Okay.
Yep, it's all their distillation. They distill in house. They age in house.
That's what makes them interesting to me, because nowadays everyone is sourcing their stuff. So
yeah, and I mean, at this point, with them doing the contract distillation, they're the ones providing. I do know of a couple of NDPs who have switched to Old Glory as their source. They started out with another. They started out with another distillery, and they switched.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you know what's the oldest juice they have so far?
Let's see. So this single barrel was just under 5 years. This would have been probably late 2024. So we're probably 6 years now, somewhere in that ballpark, or maybe closer to 7 years, somewhere in that ballpark. So I haven't tried any of the older stuff, but I mean, if it improves upon this,
yeah,
I'm curious. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, let's go in for a pour of this. Thank you to those of you guys that are in the chat that are like, let's talk basketball. Hold on a second. We're getting there. All right. So let's go. Looks good.
Smells nice.
Smells very nice.
This is one of those. It was a stark difference in their 2 to 3 year blend at 90 proof.
Okay.
That's that extra. I mean, maybe it's not surprising, but to go from a 2 to 3 year blend up to a 4+ bottled and bond, massive step up.
Now I have a question. I don't have the label in front of me, but you did say that they have. Oh, hold on, I want to take a guess. No, don't show me. I want to take a guess, because you said they do some Tennessee whiskey and they do some Kentucky bourbon.
Mm-hmm.
So which one is this?
Right.
I would guess Kentucky bourbon.
Right.
Nope.
Well, one, it's gonna be a Tennessee bourbon. It's fully made in Tennessee.
Everything's Tennessee.
Yeah, everything's in Tennessee. But yeah, they make a traditional style bourbon without the sugar maple charcoal filtration before going into the barrel. And then they make a Tennessee whiskey, which is also legally bourbon by every definition.
Yeah.
But when it comes off the still, they do the sugar maple charcoal filtration, and then they put it in the barrel. And we just like to bicker about whether or not Tennessee whiskey is bourbon, but it is, but it's still a fun bickering.
So then, do you know which process this one went through?
Yeah, this is not the Lincoln County process. This is the traditional
Tennessee
bourbon.
A traditional bourbon.
But what's fun though, we talk about the Tennessee whiskey and the sugar maple charcoal filtration. There's absolutely no regulation about what that has to look like. Like Jack Daniels has these monstrous vats. They're big and deep. Old Glory, it's metal, but it essentially looks like they run it through a PVC pipe. It's about that wide. I don't know. It's 4 feet long, and it's packed with sugar maple charcoal. So, like, even their Tennessee whiskey, I mean, they're running it through sugar maple charcoal. It's just nowhere near as much as what Jack Daniels is. Or in every Tennessee distillery who does it, their process looks very different.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, this is good. A lot of times it's hard. You see it and I see it as influencers. People go on these kicks of like, oh, if it's not aged this long, don't even send it to me anymore. Like, under 6 years, that's not really even worth drinking, and sometimes some people prove that to be true. You're just like, oh, that should have aged a little more. That tastes like water. But this is not one of those, for me, this is a solid pour. it's a little bit on the sweeter side, but I feel like I would introduce this a lot to people that I want to experience good whiskey without like having to be like, here's some flavored garbage as your entry, you know? But so I get like caramel apples, but like bruleed, you know, like bruleed apples with some caramel on it. It's a good pour. It's definitely one that I would share with people that I'm trying to introduce to whiskey. Do you know the price point on this one?
As I recall, it's like, I don't know, it's either 50 or 60. It's been a while since I've looked. I mean, it's a pretty affordable. I mean, for considering it's a craft distillery, it's an affordable price point.
No, that's great. Yeah, I'm looking right now. 64. Yeah.
Okay,
So,
69.
you know, that it's one of those that I would say, you know, you get to like the 85 point and I'm like, oh yeah, that's too much, you know, for what we're getting in a 4-year. But I think that's a great price point for a 4-year whiskey that packs that much flavor. So I like this one. Appreciate this. What do you think, Al?
I think it's a fantastic pour. Sometimes I've had some 100 proofs that kind of have a bigger bite than expected. This one goes down pretty smooth, which I like, but still has a nice bold flavor at the beginning of it. Obviously, it's not going to have the the long lasting taste because it's 100 proof, but it has a lot of flavor up front when you start it out, and then it doesn't sting on the way down. I think it goes down pretty smooth. So I like it a lot, man. I would definitely have this up on my bar.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, this is one of those like bottles that you keep on the shelf because you have friends come over that aren't whiskey connoisseurs.
Yeah,
you know, you still want something that you can just crack open for any and everybody that comes in to your place.
I don't know about you guys, but like I can't like always drink or just like jump right into the 120 proofers. Like sometimes I want to start with something a little lower, right, and just get kind of like get the juices flowing. And then
that's
you
cute.
can later on.
You'll get there. You'll get there.
Well, and I talk about a sports bourbon. You know, if I'm watching, I'm not so much an NBA fan, but I'm a huge college basketball fan. If I'm watching this year, my Kentucky Wildcats disappoint me, and I'm going to be sitting there for 2 hours. I'm not going to go to 120 proof bourbon when I'm sitting there for 2 hours. This is a good option if you're going to have more than one pour over a period of time. Yeah, it's a really good bourbon. It's affordable, and the proof isn't gonna put you in a bad spot.
Yeah. No, I'm just joking with you. For me, this is definitely like start the night. Like if so I'm not one of those guys that's gonna like one pour for the night and like fill the glass up. Like I'm just like, why? So for me, I have all this whiskey that's been given to me. If I'm watching the Knicks, it's going to be 1 ounce per quarter, and I'm going to switch it up to different things so that I can enjoy it, but last night or last game, I cracked open a rare character that I picked up and gave my wife a sip, and she's like, oh my gosh, that is so strong. And I was like, oh, let me look at the proof. And it was 142 proof. And I was like, yeah, this is fourth quarter whiskey. It's not first, second, third, fourth quarter, because then I don't know what happened in the game, even if it's just 4 ounces. That's a lot of proof.
You gotta pace yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, can I ask a question to Jake? Being that you kind of like you operate like in the future, right? With the labels and all that, you kind of see things coming down the pike. Like, what did you think when you started seeing these labels all of a sudden start going to like 120 proof, 140 proof before you ever like maybe tasted them? You just started seeing that. Like, what were your thoughts? What did you think about what was happening in the industry?
Well, one of the things to point out also is like a lot of labels I see, when it comes to TTB, like filing the paperwork, proof can be a placeholder. So like I see things all the time and I'm like, is that really what the proof's going to be? Or is it a proof holder? I get like, that's the craze right now. Everyone wants hazmat. And, there are certainly these individuals who feel like, if it's below 95 proof, it's terrible. And, it's not for me. And I've had some fantastic hazmat type stuff, but, I'm also not one that thinks something can't be really good. I don't think that's a qualifier at all. You know,
Yeah.
I feel, and honestly, I feel like really high proof can hide flaws.
Yeah.
It gets lost in it.
I never even thought of that. Yeah.
You know, a couple years ago, I was drinking with Charles Medley, who was the guy who owned Green River before it was Green
Yeah.
River, and he was saying that when he was analyzing his whiskey, he proofed it down to 20 proof because he said at 20 proof you can't hide flaws, and that's where he tasted it. But I also think it's important to realize, like, you know, 140 proof and the whiskey proof to 100 proof. The 100 proof isn't just a diluted version of the 140 proof. If you start adding water, like, it changes the chemistry. You're changing the bonds and whatnot. So it's not like it's just a watered down 140 proof. Like, the chemistry is different. So the aromas are different, maybe similar, but they're different. The taste is different. And I don't know. I get people like the whole hazmat thing right now, super high proof. I certainly like it. But I also kind of roll my eyes at those who, you know, I'll post an allocated type label, and it's like 97 proof, and it's just like it's wait for the comments.
Yeah,
wait
you
for
see the
people
comments.
to, wait for the comments and people to be complaining about it, and it's like, you know. Another background, I did actually 2 single barrel selections of brandy from Copper and Kings Distillery in Louisville a couple weeks ago. We tried, I don't know, it might have been 10 barrels that day, straight from the barrel. Every single thing we tried it straight, right there, Copper and Kings. We tried it straight from the barrel, and we tried it with a drop or 2 of water added. Every single barrel we tried was better with a drop or 2 of water in it. Now, I get for some that's blasphemy, but straight up, adding a little water, it was just better. Still high proof, but better. So I kind of chuckle at a lot of the super high proof stuff.
Well, I think when you put anything in a category of if it's this, then it's good or then it's bad, that's ignorance, you know, because I've had some stellar hazmats. Then I've had some hazmats that I'm just like, I would rather you kick me in the teeth 4 times and then throw an elbow before I have another sip of this. Like, it was horrendous. And all I tasted was garbage, you know? And then I've had some lower proof that I'm like, wow, that doesn't drink at its low proof. Like, that is full of flavor, that is full of, like, you know, bite. I love this, you know? And so for me, I stopped looking at age statements and stopped looking at like what anyone in the comment section say, because after you drink so many of these, like, and you're getting bottles sent to you, you have to really go in without opinions from somebody else, because someone's always going to disagree with you. Someone's always going to think that their palate is better than yours, or that, you know, they're elite in their thinking. And that's the greatest thing about whiskey, is that no one's right. Like, everyone's got their own things that they taste. Sometimes people are like, oh, it tastes like this. And I'm like, I have no clue where you got that, but I'm glad you did, because you like it, you know? Like, I didn't get that, but I still like it. So obviously it's just good whiskey. So awesome. So we're going to break down the next one in a second. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Shout out to my girl Ebony up in here. We gave you praise earlier. I think you bounced out for a second, but we love you, Eb. Feel free to click that link and join the conversation at any point. So let's talk real quick, Al. From that game, we went to the Rockets game. We squeezed that one out just a little bit. Brunson with only 12 shots that game, which was pretty impressive. That, you know, we pulled that one off. He was shooting 50%. He only took 12 shots, yet still had 20 points. And this is where I talk about Brunson shooting less is honestly such a great thing for the Knicks, because that means he's actually getting other people involved, and other people are being able to take that pressure off of him having to constantly knock down shots. Cat had a way better game than he did. Cat was shooting 66% for that night. 3 for 3 from 3, which is what we've been dying to see. Like, keep unloading the clip. Like, let's freaking do this. You know, so, you know, That's your old Wildcat guy right there, Mr. Jake, Mr. Karl Anthony Towns, waking up at this point of the season. Thank God. 7 rebounds, 1 steal, 1 assist. But the 66.7% shooting and 100% from 3. That was probably one of the best Cat games that I've seen in a long time. So shout out to Cat for that. Mikhail, mediocre. Jalen, okay. Shamit, not bad. OG actually had a good game, that one, which is one of the few that we've seen since he's came back. He did good right there. He had 20 points for the night, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 4 steals. Like that was an OG game where you are excited to watch it. And that's kind of what we need from him moving on in the season. Jose Alvarado came in with 8 points, but great defense. Honestly, he is what turned that game into a win. 5 freaking steals in 19 minutes. That's crazy. That's 1 steal for every 4 minutes that the kid was on the court. That's super impressive, as well as 4 assists, which is also 1 assist for every 10 minutes that he's on the court. So what was your thoughts on that game? I think we did a pretty decent job on that one. And what did we hold?
I gotta caution you. So the first 3 quarters weren't that great, right? Like,
you're right. It was a fourth quarter redemption.
I was watching that game and I was like, man, this Houston Rockets team is ginormous. We just finished dealing with Azar Thompson. Now we got Amen Thompson. And the smallest guy I think in the starting lineup is like 6'6", and then everyone else is 6'8" or better. So I was just like, man, like Kevin Durant was just having he's having the time of his life whenever Josh Hart switched over to him.
Oh yeah.
But I will say, I will say, he's the amount of times that I see 6'4" Josh Hart trying to stop a 6'8" dude is crazy. Like, I understand like he's a decent defender or can be a decent defender, but man, we always put him in a bad spot. I almost feel bad for him because it's kind of not his fault that he keeps getting put in these bad spots and gets these assignments. But it is what it is. It always ends up happening. Anyways, I thought OG did a great job down the stretch locking down Kevin Durant because he was going off, and OG actually put the clamps on him. Obviously, this is one of those Jose Alvarado games I mentioned earlier. Like, the reason we came back was because he came in and he sped the offense up. I was telling my group chat this the other day. I think Jose Alvarado is giving us what I expected Jordan Clarkson to be. Not in the same way, like not in like shooting and all that kind of stuff, but being a spark plug. Like, Jordan Clarkson was supposed to come in and be a spark plug, right? He hasn't really done that or whatever. We won't get into that. But when Jose Alvarado gets in the game, he's like a spark plug, right? Like, he's a burst of energy. He boosts the team up, and he just starts making things happen. So I think he's rounding into his role pretty nicely. I like what I'm seeing from him. Can't really complain. The only in the last couple of games, the only thing that's gone down is like his 3-point shooting. So he has to make sure that he's knocking down that 3 and staying dangerous. But I even love how he attacks the basket. He's a New York City point guard. No one's taking the ball from him. Like, he can dribble through anything. So I like to see that. And then the other thing you mentioned, Karl Anthony Towns, obviously, he had a great game, man. 10 for 15. The one thing that you didn't call out is I actually thought Alvarado was going to have the biggest plus minus, but it's Cat. Cat was plus 23 that game, and Alvarado was plus 19. So great game from Cat, man. If we can get that kind of performance from Cat, that's the kind of stuff that like raises our ceiling significantly, and we can start having those crazy finals discussions again.
Yeah. So here's the thing I want to push back on, because you were like 3 quarters of basketball. I know it seems that way, but it wasn't. Like, it wasn't 3 quarters of bad basketball, because we were pretty much neck and neck going into halftime. It just didn't feel that way because the third quarter we got our teeth kicked in. Like, we came out of halftime looking like complete trash. Like, in that third quarter, it looked like we lost the game because they outscored us by like 15 after already being ahead by 1 point. So we go into the fourth quarter 16 behind, and that's because our third quarter was so bad. But the second half was also where Jalen Brunson came alive, because I think that in the first half he had 2 points. So we were neck and neck with them when Jalen Brunson only had 1 bucket. So
he also had 2 huge offensive fouls drawn.
Yeah,
2 huge
exactly.
ones.
So looking at the whole thing, it was like that third quarter reminded me of last season, third quarter of doom.
Yeah.
Where we were just like, yo, how are we this close? And now we're down 16 going into the fourth. And we were like, yo, what's going to happen? Because this fourth quarter, if we play anything like we did in the third, then we're food. It's over. But luckily we didn't see that. Cat played well. JB played well. JB actually shot 100% that quarter. Where he was struggling earlier. So
his shot making down the stretch was crazy. He was making some crazy shots, man.
And that's when I like him being that guy. When you see that it's going down, keep pushing in. But when you're going 1 for 16 and you're still chucking them up, that's where I kind of have the issue. But in a game like this, you see that you're getting that, response. You're able to do it. You're doing it well. You have Cat as well, who's shooting incredibly. So you have that second option. OG is shooting well. So you have that second option. It was just a good game in that fourth quarter. The third was horrible, but the fourth was redemptive. And I thought we did well. We did a good job also keeping Sengun, at bay. We didn't let him go off like a lot of teams have. And so I feel like, when you get that kind of caliber player and you keep him at 16 points, you got to give it up. That's good basketball. That's us looking good. So that's my thoughts on that. Once again, chat, if you want to join the open panel, I'm posting the link. Feel free to jump up whenever you want, kind of like Dan did earlier. Just come up, talk your talk. And so let's talk one more before we go. We don't have to talk too much about this game, but the Bulls game, 105-99 win. Obviously, the Bulls are kind of struggling. They were doing really, really well in the early part of the season. Now it's like one game they look good, one game they look like, the G League. So not too much to brag about there. But there were some concerns for me. And for me, one of those major concerns is in this 4 games that we're talking about, there were 2 that Jalen Brunson shot below 37% for the night. And this was one of them. Jalen Brunson played 36 minutes with 19 points, but shot 36% and shot 16.7% from 3. This is where I go, stop chucking it. Stop forcing it. Because the game could have been a lot more in our advantage, could have been a lot earlier like that. We wrapped it up in the books, but he was chucking up those shots. And when you have Landry Shamet going for 5 for 9, feed him. When you have Cat going 10 for 17, feed him. When you have Josh Hart going 4 for 5, feed him. Feed the hot hands. You had more than enough around you. So what was your thought on that Chicago game?
The first thing was Yabusele kind of cooked us. He had a double-double. He had 11 points and 13 rebounds. And I was tweeting, I was like, please don't let Yabusele cook us. And then he did cook us. But we got the win. So I guess I didn't care that much. But he definitely had that game circled. It was funny that he got off like that.
You see him do this to McHale when he hit that 3? I was dying, bro. Dying.
The other thing was Cat shot 9 3-pointers. He went 5 for 9. I have been clamoring for him to shoot 8 3-pointers a game. Just jack him up. I was watching the Detroit Spurs game, and Wembanyama's gravity is so crazy on the 3-point line. He had Durant all the way out there, and Fox was getting to the cup. Layup after all of them was getting to the cup, like easy layups, like nobody in sight, because Wembanyama's gravity is so crazy at the 3-point line because he's shooting and taking those 3s, and he's not shy about it. Cat's gravity has decreased so much this year, and you don't see those open lanes for Brunson anymore. They're actually pretty clogged. We need Cat to start letting it fly at the 3-point line and open up these lanes, increases gravity and also OG and Mikel, they need to start making their shots so that their gravity also increases and the game becomes easier for Brunson.
Yeah, no, I agree, bro. Like looking at Cat that game, you got to tip your hat off to him. You have to go, that's what we need. This is the Cat that we want. People ask why I'm so critical, of Cat earlier in the season and in games where he's shooting, which we'll talk about that in a few when we talk about this last game, when he's barely shooting shots. I'm like, because I know what he's capable of. Like, it can be completely night and day on how this New York Knicks team look is based off of Cat. So shout out to him there. The only thing I do say is, like, come on, bro. How you going to let Yabusele out rebound you? That's crazy. Had 2 more rebounds than Cat did. That was my only frustration with Cat that game. But shout out to the defense. We kept Giddey at bay. Giddey was not able to get anything going in that game. Our defense completely locked him down. 6 points, 2 for 10, shooting 20% on the night. 2 turnovers. Like, it was just good to be able to lock him down and not see anybody really develop. So shout out to him.
One other thing I noticed in this game, and I've noticed in all the games, and this was a concern that I had once we picked up Swishin, is that going to eat into Diawara's minutes? And it absolutely has. In some games, you see maybe they have the same amount of minutes, but who gets off the bench first? It's always been Swishin that's getting off the bench first. So to me, he's eating into Diawara's minutes. In that Bulls game, Diawara didn't play. He got a DNP. And we haven't seen that great production that we were getting from Diawara. We haven't seen that post All-Star break. And that was one of the things that I think we need, that because he has a little scoring punch. He has a little defense. Is Swishin a better defender? Absolutely. But Diawara still, I think we need to find a way to get Diawara going again.
I agree. So real quick, I want to give a shout out to one of my favorite brands. They actually were the first brand that was on for this season. I just got a text from my guy, Zach. He said, y'all just need more Kentucky players and you will win it all. So he is a Kentucky head. He said, watching with you and Jake. Hope all is well, my friend. So shout out to Zach. I appreciate you so much, bro. I freaking love that dude. You
got the same text. Yeah, he said, tell Phil you just need more Kentucky players.
Oh, man, I love that dude. If you guys can tonight, look up Silk Velvet. This brand seriously was the talk of the Kentucky Bourbon Festival this year. Really? Every single influencer that walked by me was like, Phil, have you been to the Silk Velvet tent yet? And I was like, I've been shooting, but I'm going. You're like the 15th person that's told me I need to go over there. And they are seriously, hands down, their single barrel's great. But their small batch blew my mind, absolutely blew my mind. So shout out to Zach. Appreciate you so much, bro. We've been talking about us doing something special with them. So I just need to make sure that happens. And maybe we'll just distribute all of our bottles that we pick through Coming Whiskey. That might be the best route. So, we'll see what happens here.
Silk Velvet, it's legit. So you're talking about the Kentucky Bourbon Festival. I brought a couple of samples to give away. And I had it in my pocket, and I posted a video basically saying, first person here to cut that finds me gets a sample. First one I did was, at the time, it was a rare single barrel selection from a restaurant called Cap and Cork in Henderson, where Silk Velvet is based. But it was a barrel proof offering. None of that hype was surprising to me. I went to the launch party in January of 2025. And you look back at my Instagram again, I was hyping up Silk Velvet for months. But I get it's hard to break onto the scene. So when they got to KBF and a mass audience finally got to try it, the fact that it made waves, not surprising at all. I mean, it's Jacob Call whiskey. For those who don't know Jacob Call, he was the original distiller at Green River. In Owensboro, where I live. He has since moved on to start a new distillery that's about, somewhere about 2.5 years old now. Western Kentucky Distilling, also near Owensboro. I mean, the man knows whiskey.
Yeah.
We're playing with different mash bills than what Green River, or what he released at Green River. I mean, Jacob Call laid down like 20 something different mash bill, different recipes in Owensboro. Most of them ended up, elsewhere, not Green River branding, but I mean, the man knows whiskey. Zach, you mentioned he's been with Jacob Call from like day one in Owensboro at Green River. When Jacob Call left to go to Western Kentucky Distilling, Zach went with him. Soap Velvet comes out of there. It's legit stuff. Absolutely.
Yeah, I love it. It's seriously, like when you see a brand that you enjoy, but what's in the bottle is delicious and great, but the people are that much greater. Like, you have to support it. After talking to them and talking to their wives at the Kentucky Bourbon Festival, I was like, this is a brand I want to make sure every single person knows about. So when they had told me that they had gotten distribution from Seelbach and they just wanted to like find a way to do it, we got on a call and we said, let's figure out the Avengers. Like, what influencers can I bring in to like have you guys send bottles to? And we'll do like these 15 people and everybody will post every single day for this amount of time. And then the day that, they were getting distributed was the day that he was on the show talking about, hey, we're finally out on Seelbach. And so just seeing their success makes me happy because the people are just as good as the whiskey, if not better. So that's rare to find. Like, sometimes you're like, man, I like this brand, but everyone I've talked to, I do not like. Like, I do not want to put them on my social media because they have not been a delight to work with, and so them, if they want to post a week, I'll do it. I don't really care. So shout out to those guys. All right, so let's talk about this one. I'm excited for this one. All right, so I posted this one on my Instagram this week. So for those of you guys who follow me, you know that my wife grew up in Indiana and then moved to Ohio, but she's from a small town called Corey, Indiana. So how did a Puerto Rican from New York City marry the whitest of white from Indiana? Like, it's only the Lord. God had a way of working it out, but nothing else made sense. So was visiting her and her family in Indiana, was at some stores, and up there, whiskey's everywhere. Like, you can find whiskey everywhere. And I started seeing this label, this one right here. And I was like, man, that's a cool label. This was a few years back. And I was like, man, this is a cool label, but I've never heard of this brand. Like, and I knew nothing about it. And I was like, but I'm a sucker for like good labels. I'll look it up when I get home. Well, you get home and you have like 12 packages that have arrived in the 2 weeks you've been out of town, and you have reviews you have to do and stuff like that. Out of sight, out of mind. I completely forgot about them. And then when I was talking to Jake, and I was like, all right, what ones, do you think are worth highlighting? And he gave me like, 5 or 6 that he's like, I think you would like these. And I saw the label. I was like, yo, that's the label that I saw all the time in Indiana. So I looked it up, and of course I saw it because they're from 45 minutes outside of where my wife lives in Indianapolis. And I started reading about them, and like me, they are part of their whiskey society, and they formed from doing their whiskey society. So it started from a group of whiskey drinkers that enjoyed it. They decided to do their own thing. They're, private bottlers. So this is all like sourced whiskey. But I was really, really excited for this one because I'm a sucker for toasted. And so this one is distilled in Kentucky, 7 years, 110 proof. What do you like? What do you think's noteworthy to highlight about Circle City?
All right. So, one, oddly enough, I'm actually, after work tomorrow, I am driving to Indianapolis. This Saturday, I'm doing a single barrel selection with Circle City.
Nice.
I have a local friend here in Owensboro, Matt, who started, fairly new, the Owensboro Barrel Pickers.
Okay.
And he reached out and said, can you get me a pick with Circle City? Yeah, I can. So Drew Black is the man behind Circle City. Indianapolis's nickname is the Circle City. So we've had the schedule for several months, and it's this weekend. So I'm actually going up this weekend, and we're gonna pick something, and not just pick something, but try a bunch of the good shit that Drew has, in his little warehouse.
Yeah.
We'll say Drew is a man who is offended by high prices. He demands excellence. I get that a lot of you may have never have heard of Circle City if you don't live on Instagram or whatnot. But Drew, when he picks barrels, he does not buy barrels that have been picked over by someone else. He's not buying anyone else's rejects. He is buying barrels that have not been refused by anybody else, and he charges a fair price. And I should say better than a fair price. He wants to be really good whiskey for the everyman. He's not interested in jacking up the price. And to kind of tell you the level of quality, one, this toasted barrel, it's fantastic. But late 2024, he released a 12-year rye, MGP rye, ridiculous. He entered it into the Ascot Awards with Fred Minnick. It placed Fred Minnick's top 3 ryes that year.
Wow.
I want to say it was the two that beat it was like Redemption 18 year for like $300, and I want to say it might have been the BTAC Handy, which God knows what that sells for.
Yeah,
Drew's was 135.
Wow.
So it's like, you're getting one of Fred Minnick's top 3 rye whiskeys of the year. The others were, 12 years old is a good age. The others were much older, and they were at least double the price. Drew could have charged much more for that, but he didn't.
Yeah.
So he is a man who demands excellent whiskey and is offended by high prices. I talk to Drew usually a couple times a week.
That's awesome.
So this here, though, it's one of those things. It's distilled, the toasted barrel. It's distilled in Kentucky with the familiar mash bill, 78-10-12. Which that certain distillery, being Heaven Hill, will not let you put that on the label. That's kind of their thing. But it's Heaven Hill.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Drew, his single barrels are great. His blending skills are great. And it's a small operation. The first time I went to go visit Drew, well, backstory, one of my best friends, Will, who also runs the account Copper Pot Brandy, he lives in the north side of Indianapolis. He lives, like 20 minutes away from there. So when I go visit my friend Will, who I'm staying with tomorrow, I go visit Drew as well. First time I went to go visit Drew at Circle City, it was literally like a rental garage. We went to the storage unit. It wasn't big. And, his barrels were just shoved in there. Nothing glamorous about it. But he was still putting out kick-ass whiskey. He has since bought an actual building that I've been to. So he's moving up in the world with his facilities. But, he literally started out storing his barrels in a rental unit. But fantastic whiskey.
That's awesome. I love it. If you could do me a favor, I just sent you my number in the private chat. So me and him have been talking because he's a diehard Indiana Pacer fan. And he wants to do an episode with me, him, and Dram Daddy on the episode because he connected me. But as good as his whiskey is, his Instagram replying skills are not as good as his whiskey. So he's like, yeah, let's do it. And then I'm like, all right, let's nail a date. And then 4 or 5 days go by and I'm like, we need to freaking nail this down. We're running out of dates. So if you can give him my number, tell him you were on the show and that I want to lock him down, have him text me. That would be awesome.
I can do that.
Because I love the whiskey from this bottle that you sent. And I was like, man, I started following them. Then I saw him at a Pacer game and I was like, man, that's a loyal fan because they are absolute trash this season. Second worst team in the whole league, and he's still going to games. I admire that kind of fandom. I need him on the show because his team is bad. His whiskey is good. Let's get together. So I'm looking forward to that. So let's grab a sample of this, guys.
Let's do it.
I'm drinking out of my bougie little stem glass from Pursuit Spirits. Makes me feel fancy with my whiskey. I love it.
Pinky out.
Yep, pinky out. Gotta sip it up. There we go. Oh, yes.
I'm
Dad
drinking the dad juice.
I don't know. I like this toast a lot. Sometimes I feel like toast, it can go a couple different ways. It can go like it can go very sweet, or
Yeah.
it can go like uber spicy. I
Yep.
feel like this one leans more on the sweeter side, which I like. I mean, I enjoy the ones that go super spicy, but I gotta be in a mood for those.
Yeah.
And I'm not always in the mood for that, super ridiculous spice. This is one that I don't need to be in a mood for. Like, I could pour this any night,
Yep.
and it's gonna hit the spot.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's what I said in my Instagram review is like, you get that like toasted marshmallow, like
You
off
get that
the
on
bat.
here. Yeah.
You
Oh
get
yeah.
that there. You get that campfire-esque like thing that I
Yeah.
love from whiskey. But like you said, some toasteds can swing the pendulum one way or the other, and it's too much. It's like all I taste is that baking spice, and like I'm like,
Yeah.
that's fine for certain nights where that's what I want. I want a little punch. But if I'm just like an everyday sipper, which at this price point, this is what I want it to be. Like
Yeah.
you have such a good whiskey at such an incredibly fair price. This can be your everyday sipper. This can be something that is great whiskey that you just have because you want to have it, not because it's anything special, not because you're intentionally sitting down to grab whiskey, but you're playing a game of cards with the family and you want to pour, and that's a reliable pour.
Yeah.
And so what I love about this one is like, without that baking spice coming in, it would be too sweet. It would be a dessert pour. It would be
Yeah.
like something I would have to be in the mood for sweetness. But that marshmallow toasted flavor hits first, and then that baking spice follows it and gives
Yep.
it that perfect balance of what you would want in a toasted barrel. Like,
Yeah.
I absolutely was so surprised when I cracked this one open, because the flavor, the amount of flavor that you get from it is incredible. And then the spice is so good, but it doesn't overpower, and it balances it perfectly. So yeah, this is an incredible pour. I love this one.
Yeah, that's one of the things I was gonna say. I was like, wait, the spice is still there, but it's pretty light compared to like other pours. But you can tell that the baking spices are still there, and it comes in towards the end of the finish, or the middle, I would say. In the front of the palate, you definitely get that marshmallow right up front. It's really nice. It's a burst of flavor. I really enjoy this. This is a really good one. Another really good one. I like it a lot.
It is. I love it.
And Circle City, like, they've got a whole wide assortment of things they come out with. One of the more interesting ones is he started doing, blend series where he's blending two distilleries together that you wouldn't normally expect. I got one. I want to say, was it called the 50/50 Club, something like that?
Okay.
And it was a blend of, I think, 7-year Heaven Hill, but the other half, or other 49%, was 9-year Wild Turkey that at cask strength was like 103 proof.
Okay.
And because Wild Turkey sold off a bunch of these barrels that were ranging in like 97 to 103 proof that just didn't fit their profile for anything. So they sold them off to brokers. Well, Drew bought a few of them. So he's blending good Heaven Hill with this bizarre, super low proof 9-year Wild Turkey. It works. It's fantastic. So, I mean, he's doing some innovative blends as well.
I love blends. Like, in a world where everyone is going crazy over single barrels, I think blending is so cool. Like, there's so many things that you can do. It's like, what's in there? You have a 9 and a 13 and a 15. Like, this is amazing. And then last week we had Take on here. He sent us the Raven, and that was the first time I've personally ever had. I'm still a little bit of a novice. That was the first time I ever had 3 different distilleries blended into one bottle. So I thought it was pretty cool. And now that you mentioned there's other folks doing it, I think that's awesome. I would like to get more bottles like that.
Well, and single barrels have been the craze forever. And like, I mean, I love them as much as anything. But one, if you've not been on a single barrel, if you've not been part of the selection process, in most cases, the distillery is going to roll out, let's say, 4 barrels. You're going to pick one of them.
Yeah.
Those other 3 are going to sit there. And they're going to let them sit there until the next group shows up, but they're going to add 1 barrel in. So there is a high probability that when you pick your perfect best single barrel on earth, like 8 other clubs rejected it. 8 other clubs passed it over.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would love to, like, blending is beautiful. I get like an American whiskey, blended whiskey has been kind of a bad word, you know, because the whole 2080 thing. But like, blending is real art. One of the coolest experiences I've had, I guess it was last year, Virginia Distillery, single malt distillery in Livingston, Virginia. They released a blend your own kit at home. Now this can work either if you want to do like a store selection, but a blend, or as a private individual, which is what I did. They will mail you 3 different samples of their single malt with different finishes on it. And you take it, they send a blending kit, and you blend it to your perfect whiskey. You send them that ratio, and they will blend the actual bottle for you.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
Mail it to you. And the whole experience is like $90.
That's sick.
And what was really cool about it is like when I knew what the blending components were going in, I mean, I knew what I was going to pick. Like I knew exactly what I was going to want. But then when I sit down and I actually start playing with it, like what I thought I wanted, or what I thought I would want, was the absolute last thing I actually enjoyed.
Yeah.
So like, you know, when people do blending, like it's tough. Like, I mean, there's, you know, there's so much more art to that than just picking a good single barrel. So I'm honestly really excited. I found out this week, it all came together real quick. For those who've been following me on Instagram, I got a barrel of Barrel King that collaborates with the Alzheimer's Foundation or Alzheimer's Association. It's Green River. It's 9-year, 4 month, 4 days raising money. Well, Barrel King invited me to come to Missouri, and I'm going in 3 weeks, and they're going to let me do my own blend of Green River, which is my hometown, ranging 6 to 9 years. And like, I'm geeking out about this. Like, I've done several single barrels. I love doing them, but this is the first time I'm actually going to get to sit down and like blend something. Hope it doesn't suck, you know. But like, blending is cool,
bro. So I will probably never be on your level, but you know, just in like minimal form, I can't imagine how excited you are because I went to some cheesy experience that you can do for a limited amount of money. Right next to a few blocks away from Green River downtown in Louisville. I went to the Louisville Slugger Museum, and they have like this little like whiskey experience right next door. It's called like
Bourbons and Billets.
Yeah, Bourbons and Billets. And like they had me come in and do like an Instagram reel, you know, of the experience. And you pretty much based off of like 4 bottles, 4 or 5, no, it's 8 variations they have. They give you all the samples and you create your own blend or whatever. And so they created a blend of my favorites. And I then went into a room where they put my That's the Spirit label on the front of the bottle. And like, it's nothing like actually picking from barrels and creating your own blend that way. But even that to me was like super cool because I was like, man, this is based off of my taste, what I preferably like enjoy. And I get to share it with people, you know, and like hearing people's like remarks of like, dang, this is a good blend, like what's in it, and I'm like, oh, you know, like it's this based off of a small selection that I was given. I felt like it came out pretty dang good, you know. And so to be able to go to some of the coolest distilleries and be able to like create your own blends, that's an amazing experience. So I'm pumped for that. Can't wait to see it.
It's a lot of fun.
Can't wait to taste it.
You know, and like, and that let's say, you know, I don't know, like the Circle City, it's Heaven Hill.
Yeah.
You know, you and I could be put into a room, to a warehouse with 500 barrels of Heaven Hill that are theoretically, you know, they all started out the same.
Yeah.
And you could say, you pick 50 barrels, I pick 50 barrels, and our blend is going to be wildly different. It's all Heaven Hill. It all started out the same way, but, you know, the 50 barrels we picked to blend the end result's going to be wildly different. And so it's like, people want to say, even like MGP, it's like, well, it's all the same, all these source brands, all MGP,
Yeah.
Like, I've had really good sourced blended MGP.
Yeah.
And I've had some, I'm like, will you be in business next year?
Yeah.
It's like not everyone is good at blending. I'm going to Missouri to Barrel King to blend this Green River 6 to 9 years. Like, I'm hoping I do a good job with it. Like, great, I'm going to have some help and guidance. People know what they're doing, but like, there's no guarantee that my blend is going to turn out to be amazing. I mean, it's an art.
There's a YouTube channel that I watch. Is the Mash and Drum. I don't know if you're familiar with it. He did his bottle with Barrel King, and he said he took like 2 years to really like hone down his blend. He said it's different when you're blending like a small quantity than when you start blending like barrels and stuff like that. So
I went out to the guys at Short Barrel in Atlanta. They hired me to come out and do like photo video for their revamped website. And while I was there, they were tasting and blending for their next cigar batch, and just to see how many barrels you actually have to taste to find out, based off of those flavors, which you really think are going to go with what you already started to blend. Like, it's a huge upkeeping, and it's like, you put something in and you're like, you taste it in that small glass, and you have to, based off of that small glass, go, yes, I think this is good enough to pour the rest of that into this, like you have to have confidence in what you're tasting and that, your audience to be able to say, yes, here's a barrel that I spent a ton of money on, and now I'm going to add 30% of this other barrel that I spent a ton of money on because what I tasted in this Glencairn tells me that's a worthwhile investment.
And you hope it translates. You hope that little tiny amount translates to really big amounts.
Yep. And you have to hope that the 3 people that you had there that told you, yes, it's good, were actually right, that's a lot. So,
and you get people like, Short Barrel, like when I do my reviews, I have a pretty standard battery of questions that I email to the brands, and they're usually pretty happy to answer my questions. Like, brands may not proactively put information out there, like especially the craft guys, but if you ask them directly, they're usually pretty happy. And I frame it as, if you went through the trouble of putting the detail into your product, it should be highlighted. Even though but like, one of the things I see is, I did a review recently, and like, it was an 11 barrel blend, and all barrels were from the exact same lot. And I'm like sometimes these, like the sourced blenders, it literally is just picking random barrels, what you got, dumping them together, and hoping it doesn't suck. And then you get these programs where, like, again, they're picking very specific barrels, and they're doing 8% of this, 10% of this, 30% of this. Like, they are thoughtfully putting things together, and that's artistic. And then you get some of these source brands, and they're just, we've got 10 barrels, that's what we bought, they're all going together, and we hope it turns out well. Sometimes it does, sometimes it clearly doesn't. But when you blend with intention, it can be art.
No, I'm looking forward to it, man, based off of, just your recommendations here, based off following you and, agreeing a lot with your palate. I'm excited to see this pick that you pull out. Before we go back into Knicks talks, obviously that's something that you have coming up. Is there anything else that you want our viewers to know about what you have coming up? And where can they follow and support you, Jake?
Right. Well, one, some basketball. You mentioned Karl Anthony Towns. So, Kentucky basketball fan, big fan of Big Cat. Something you might want to see. There's a local artist in Owensboro named Aaron Kaiser, and he is like freakishly talented. And years ago, he commissioned, Karl Anthony Towns commissioned Aaron Kaiser to do a portrait of Karl Anthony Towns. It hangs in his rich, fancy home. Just you might enjoy it Googling Karl Anthony Towns, Aaron Kaiser. That's AARONKIZER. I actually sent you a DM with some of his paintings. They're spectacular. Aaron Kaiser is a ridiculously talented artist who loves Karl Anthony Towns.
Oh, that's sick. That's so nice.
Yeah, you've seen one Aaron Kaiser painting, you'll never forget his style. They all kind of have that same look to them. But yeah, so big fan of that.
That price tag is scary though.
Yeah. What was it? I can't see it.
Yeah.
Oh dang.
He is a local Owensboro artist, but his talent is bigger than local. Like he's like
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So much
that's a nice piece.
When he's also a very talented carpenter. So when Green River, they commissioned Aaron Kaiser to build both of their bars at the distillery.
Oh wow!
And these are, my God, fancy ass bars. So the man who painted those is also a crazy talented carpenter as well.
That's awesome.
Cat gonna have to win us the championship for me to spend $6,000 on his painting, though.
For real.
Hey, fair enough.
That's what I'm
As a
saying,
Kentucky fan, I support your dreams.
Nah, I like that. I like that local highlight. That's awesome.
So
that was really good work.
Is it the downtown bars?
No, this is the one in Owensboro.
Oh,
so
okay, Owensboro.
The actual distillery in Owensboro, he commissioned both of those. And more about Green River, if you've seen the Rick House with the big mural on it that says "The Whiskey Without Regrets," he painted that as well.
Okay.
So tying this back to whiskey and the Knicks, Aaron Kaiser paints Karl Towns portraits.
That's it.
Green River has also paid him to do a lot of work around the distillery as well
because
he's that crazy talented.
I love it. Jake, let everybody know where they can follow you, support you. And
all right.
I appreciate you.
So Facebook and Instagram, Coming Whiskey. Let's see, what is my Twitter? I mean, it's X now. What is that handle? I don't look at it a whole lot. It is OBKY _Bourbonite, Owensboro Bourbonite. And then I do my detailed reviews at drinkhacker.com. I'm not the only writer there, one of several, but I do tend to cover a lot of American whiskey, along with David Thomas Tao that you mentioned at the early part. David's a good friend of mine. Instagram, I do my bourbon photography, reviews, all the labels. But when I want to get super geeky and detailed about my whiskey reviews, sometimes rum, it's usually going to be at drinkhacker.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jake. Like, seriously, it's been awesome connecting with you, and I'm looking forward to doing more stuff with you in the future. And once you get that release done, let us know. We'd love to support you on it and promote it on the show.
All right. Thank you.
Nice meeting you, Jake.
All right, brother. You have a good one, bro.
Have a good night.
That is my guy, Jake.
My man sound like Barry White.
For real, he killed it. We're going to get back into some Knicks talk. Shout out to all of y'all that still rocked with us. I know some of y'all are like, man, y'all are talking gibberish, but y'all still rock with us. So we appreciate you and chilling with us in the gibberish. Now we're going to talk about that Cavs game, 109-94. Games like these confuse me, bro. Like, Cat was shooting 100% from the field, but he only took 5 shots in 29 freaking minutes. Like, this reminds me of that game where Mikhail was lights out shooting, and we got on the show saying, why stop? Like, when you're shooting that well, why
Who do you
stop?
blame for that? Some people blame Cat, other people blame Mike Brown, other people blame Brunson. Who do you blame for that?
No, if someone blames Mike Brown, it's that they're not willing to hold players accountable. Okay? At the end of the day, if he was not on the court, you blame Mike Brown. Like, but he still played 29 minutes. So if you're shooting 5 shots in 29 minutes, that's an issue to me. When you're shooting 100%, like, that's insane. 1 for 1 from 3, 4 for 4 from the field. Like, everything was falling for him. I don't understand.
I'm with you. Like, anyone that has ever played basketball, if you win 5 for 5, you're taking a 6 shot.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, there's no way you're not taking another shot if you haven't missed all game.
Like,
That's
even
called
if
a
it's
heat check.
Yeah.
Heat check. Yeah, I'm chucking one up, dude. Like, how do you not at least chuck one up until you miss? Like, that's got to be on Cat.
Even playing horse with my 8-year-old, if I'm hitting everything, I'm going to the half court. Like, if I feel like I'm shooting everything, like, I'm gonna try a half court shot against them. You know, like, and if that's me and I'm not a professional, you know, like, that's crazy. And so I look at that game, and then I look at Jalen again, and I talked about being upset about his 36% shooting night. He shot 31%, yet still shot 19 shots. You're shooting 31% and shooting 19 shots. The guy that's shooting 100% takes 5 shots. That confuses the daylights out of me. Like, I just don't understand.
You want to be more confused? How did Mikal Bridges shoot 17 shots and he only made 6?
Exactly. Like, that game, looking at the stats, confuses the absolute daylights out of me. And then you look at Mitchell Robinson. Mitchell Robinson went 5 for 6. Like, come on. Like, when Mitchell Robinson is more effective offensively than Jalen Brunson, we got some talking to do. But before we have that conversation, I want to bring up a friend of mine, Mr. Lee Escobedo, because we're top it up. You know, so sometimes me and Lee, we're cruising on the same ocean, but like on completely different boats. Like, our boats cannot share space. And then sometimes it's like, why are you in my room in the same boat? Like, everything we're talking about.
Let's see what Lee got today. Let's see what he got today.
No, I know what we got today. We were on the chat earlier, and we were like spitting the same thing. And I was like, Lee, get out of my freaking mind. Like, cut it out. Like, I'm halfway through a text, and Lee's like, Chick! And I'm like, bro, stop. That was my thought. Why'd you steal it? Like, chill. That's called theft, bro. Like,
let's see if I'm on the same page as you guys.
Twitter thoughts. So we're going to bring up Lee Escobedo to talk about this rest of the game and then talk about what we think is going to happen on the rest of the season. So let's go, Mr. Lee Escobedo.
Let's go.
In the game. I love that intro.
What's up, man?
Chilling, bro.
Chilling. How are you?
How you doing?
I'm actually beautiful. I spent some time with my mom, about 3 or 4 hours at the Spin Fellowship with her. Brought my little dog that used to be her service animal. She has a new little service animal. So they were fighting and playing. It was really cute. Brought her some coffee and some food. And we basically just talked about how messed up the world is right now, but how love can kind of be the thing that tethers you together and gives you some hope, even in the darkest hour.
I love that. And before we talk Knicks, how is your mom?
She's okay. I mean, she's not in the hospital anymore, so that's a blessing. She kind of has a UTI that keeps coming back. That's given her a lot of complications from that. She's disabled. She's old. She's wheelchair bound. She can no longer walk, and she's also deeply mistreated at the nursing home where she lives. So I'm consistently having to put belt to ass with the management to make sure that the service is corrected. I just installed a camera in her room to hopefully add another level of visibility and accountability on the way that she's treated. So I hope it helps.
Nice.
No, I love that. I've seen some crazy things on what those cameras have revealed. So anytime I hear that someone's in a nursing home like that, I'm like, put a few up, do what you got to do, because, you're able to monitor nonstop from your phone, record it, all that stuff. These people think that they can get away with everything. And so, I think that was wise, and hopefully that, at least, even if it only makes them change because they know it's in the room, I'm thankful that they have that accountability now.
Exactly, bro. Exactly.
Hey, Lee, random question. I haven't asked you yet. Well, I don't know if it's on your page or anything. Escobedo, where's that from?
So my mom is Caucasian, hillbilly, redneck, and my dad is Mexican American. He's second generation. So I am third generation. I was born here in Texas. He was born right by the border in the valley in San Benito, but grew up most of his life in New York, in Long Island.
I was way off. I thought Escobedo might have been like Cuban or something.
No,
I was way off.
Yeah, so I'm half Mexican and half white.
Nice. Okay.
Mr.
I'm half
Mexicano himself.
He's Puerto Rican. I'm half Ecuadorian and Dominican.
So
Latinos unite, man.
That's right.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sorry, Trump. Don't watch this one. Sorry. Anyway.
Or do, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or do, yeah, you know, lock in, bro. Hey, you deport me. Sorry. Anyway. But anyway, so we're talking about this Cavs game. This is infuriating to me, to be honest. Like, I felt like this game was one that was disappointing. And when I look at games like this, I have to be more of a realist than just a Knicks super fan. It's easy to get into super fandom and be like, oh, the Knicks are going to always win, you know, or the Knicks are the greatest team in the East. And I go, okay, why is Jalen Brunson shooting this many shots at 31%? Why is Cat having one of his greatest shooting nights in a long time and he's not shooting? Why is Mikhail almost have as many shots attempts as he has points? Like, he took 17 shots to get 18 points. Those numbers don't even make sense to me. Like, you are making less than 1 point per shot. Like, that's just crazy. And so for me, that game was hard for me to watch. My boys continue to say, like, I thought we were better than this team. I thought we were higher than them. Like, why do they look like they're the better team? And I was just like, man, this is hard to explain to them, because technically we should be the better team. But games like that make me question, who are we getting night in and night out from the Knicks? I feel like the Knicks throw us for a loop every single night on who we're going to see on the court. So talk to me about that game, Lee. Like, what did you see, and what do you think's the reasoning we see games like this?
Well, I think the reason that we see games like this is because it happens to every single team that's deemed on a contender at some point. Right now, for the first time in a very long time, we are now deemed that. So I believe that the fan base consciously and even subconsciously sees the team in a higher standard and a higher state of panic as well when things don't go the way of what we think the narrative of what a contender looks like. But if you think about the OKC Thunder, who won the championship last year, they're 0-3 against the San Antonio Spurs right now. I'm sure their fan base are like, what the hell is going on? I thought we were a contender. I thought we were a champion. We brought the same team back. This team's very young. They have no playoff experience, and they're punching them in the mouth every time they play. They literally can't figure them out the same way that they couldn't figure out Dallas when Luka was on that team. So I do think there is some context to be applied. I think this New York team, despite what the fan base has deemed as inconsistencies or a lack of effort or a lack of championship medal, I think really are just the ups and downs of an 82-game season. Attrition is going to happen. I do think at times that this team lacks effort to start games. I think sometimes the course of a game, especially on back-to-backs, you can definitely whittle it down to exhaustion, tired legs. But there have been absolutely instances where Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart and at times Mikal Bridges have been lazy on their closeouts, or they have been too committed to the hedge, guarding in the space between on the weak side where the ball is not, guarding too much in the paint instead of on the perimeter. So that when that ball swings onto the weak side and now it becomes a strong side and a three-point shooter like Robinson is there, then the Brunson Hart either choose not to close out and they stay on their man in the paint or just roam in the paint, or they're flat-footed and slow-footed and getting out to that perimeter and playing the defense, and that gives up a wide-open three. All of these are things that you see throughout the course of every season with every championship contender, with maybe the exception of a Durant, Golden State Warriors, very late year Shaq and Kobe, although those teams had their inconsistencies, or the dynasty peak of the Duncan Spurs. Those are the three best teams I've watched in my young lifetime since the year 2000. Wasn't here for Jordan, or I wasn't engaged for Jordan. But I do think that every team that wins a chip is going to have those periods where you are, as a fan, a diehard, one who is knowledgeable, is going to doubt the championship capacity and ability of that team. But I think the majority of this roster are playoff risers. just about everyone, 1 through 12, including Jordan Clarkson, is a playoff riser. So that's where I kind of lean my foresight, is I know that once the playoffs start, I have more faith in our rotation to playoffs than I do Cleveland, who has 2 guys that have been habitually, 3 guys actually, hell, 4 throughout their careers have choked in the playoffs. Talk about James Harden, Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, and Jared Allen. That's why I'm not afraid of them. Now, Detroit's very young. They only have 1 playoff round under their belt, and that was to us. And that series was decided by under 5 points in totality over the course of 6 games. That shows just how close that series was. I'm a believer like you, Phil, and Cade Cunningham. I'm also a believer like you, but Cade Cunningham is better than Jalen Brunson all around. Brunson obviously has a better resume, but I think ceiling Cade is higher. That team plays better defense and more consistent defense. They also have had better defensive players physically. However, I think the playoff riser and the playoff experience of our team will give us a competitive edge once that matchup happens. I hope it happens in the East Conference Finals and not early when that team comes in cocky and a little bit more sure of themselves. Yeah. I think the pressure rises. I think the Knicks will have a better advantage as to the mental makeup of their team.
Detroit has that coaching continuity. That's big, right?
Well, just for a year, though.
Philosophy with Mike Brown, that scares me.
You got to remember, though, Bickerstaff this is only his 1.5 season. Last year was his first season with the team. So it's not like deeply entrenched to like say Dadenall in OKC, who's been there for 5 or 6 seasons. They are relatively new now. They're catching on to him. The core has been together, but they were together for the majority of those like record-setting losing seasons from like 01 to 02, 02 to 03, 23 and 23 to 24. They were losing a lot, but also Thompson, Durant, Cade, they were all there together in the trenches for the most part. So the team has a lot of continuity, but not necessarily under the head coach. I still think the East is wide open. The only time I would say that I'm weary of winning a series is in the finals. If we go up against the OKC Thunder or a Denver Nuggets, although I think there are matchups that favor us in both those series, they're both those teams championship winning, and it's that roster, right? All of OKC's back. Now that Bruce Brown's back, a lot of Denver's the same team that they won a chip with. That worries me a little bit. But overall, I'm pretty confident that the Knicks at least have a puncher's chance and a shot to win a chip this year.
So
I give you that. I was going to ask. So
yeah.
You mentioned the players, right, and how our players are playoff risers. I'll give you that too, and that could probably even us up a little bit. But how about let's talk about the coaching staff then, because we have JB Bickerstaff on the other side, and we had Tom Thibodeau, who had JB Bickerstaff's daddy.
Facts.
He never beat Tom Thibodeau.
Yep.
Do you have that faith that Mike Brown can take him out like Tom Thibodeau did?
Now, that is a great question. I've pondered that question in my head, stoned on my patio by myself in the deep hours of the night. Because it's interesting, too, that Leon Rose made a decision that he did. Now, I'm not someone who thinks Tibbs should not have been fired. I do think that he deserved to be fired. Yeah. I just wasn't happy with the Mike Brown hiring. I think it's lateral at best, right? Yeah. Based on both of their careers. I do want to give Tibbs his props. But that factor, but the best team in the East, you're looking forecasting, right? Leon saw Boston. They knew with Letchery Tats that team was going to be broken apart. You saw Halliburton was going to be out for the next year. Your really only competition at that point is Detroit. And you made the move then to fire Tibbs, who, as you said, and I have said the same thing in my head, that was JB Bickerstaff's daddy. Bernie Bickerstaff's his real dad, but Tom Thibodeau might have adopted him because he put him over his knee and spanked that
every
ass.
time.
BBL style, pause, every single series with 2 different teams as well. Yeah. So it's interesting. I don't know a lot, I'll be honest, about Mike Brown's tenure as a head coach in a playoff series. Me, Jay Ellis, Ryan, I think B and Ebony might join me too, are going to break down that series heading into the playoffs and give some perspective on the adjustments he made when he played the Golden State Warriors. That should be interesting. I think we'll find some nuggets of things to be both confident and pessimistic about going to that. But overall, I hope that the 9 assistant coaches and Leon Rose added to Mike Brown's staff, someone there will be responsible for the different components of our team that have shown to be at times inconsistent.
Yeah. So let's talk about these 2 things before we start wrapping up. We talked a little bit earlier about when Jalen Brunson sees a player that is kind of on the same caliber of like running for credibility or stardom or MVP votes, this, that, and whatever. He tends to try to go for a tick for tack, you versus me, 1v1, playoffs against Cade. I feel like that would be what would set us back. Because like we talked in the chat and like we talked earlier, in that game, Jalen Brunson had good scoring, but Cade Cunningham outshined him there, had 40-plus points, yet still made his teammates better by having 13 assists on top of his 40-something points. And then you see games like last night, and in the last 4 games, we saw 2 games where Jalen Brunson took a lot of shots, shot 31%, and shot 36%. And one of them was back and forth, him versus Donovan Mitchell kind of situation. Do you think that will be an issue in the playoffs? Because I don't think we saw that as much last season. Games where Jalen Brunson was shooting under 36%. And is this something that we need to figure out a way to nip it in the butt now? Because we talk about why did Cat only shoot certain amount of shots, and does that play a part at all? Because he was on fire, yet he stopped shooting and Jalen continued to shoot. Do you think that any of those two things are connected?
Your point. So glad you made that, because in the chat, we Al and everyone that's watching right now, the KOT team, just about every single person chimed in today. It's rarely we have a discussion where everyone has something to say. Everyone chimed in on what would keep this team from winning a championship, what could possibly be an Achilles heel. I think 7-game series and kind of a minimum of like usually 1 or 2 games in between, right? Tire leads aren't going to be an issue. Schematic issues aren't going to be an issue because you don't have time to steam and time to watch a film and adjust in real time, right? This is where the personal, anecdotal Achilles heels come in. I've written about this for the KOT Substack. I listed out what it is for the main top 4 players: Bridges, OG, Cat, and Brunson. The 2 that I think we cannot win a championship without those 2 guys overcoming is Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns. Those are, you might say, but OG Anunoby is the number 2 most important. I think this season it's been Karl-Anthony Towns. We need 4 quarters of above-average defense for Karl-Anthony Towns every single game of 4 series on our road to win a chip. That is a must. If he plays average to below average, I do not believe we win a championship this year. That's number 1. Number 2, and this can rub people on KOT the wrong way. JLS and I have gotten to lots of semantic arguments over this, but I stand by my phrasing. Jalen Brunson has a tendency to be selfish. He can be a ball hog, as Phil said. He sees someone across the way that he is competitive with, maybe in spirit, in circumstance, or in talent, and he ices out everybody else, no pun intended, to the ice screen. And he looks at that guy and he says, we're going to go one-on-one, and these other guys are just going to be used as decoys. When he does that, we tend to lose a game this season. There's an argument he might be having his worst season as a Knick. I'm not saying that statistically, but I'm saying the eye test and what I'm watching and his impact on winning has been lesser this year than it has in years prior. And I think that's because sometimes under Brown, that wasn't the case under Tibbs, he gets a little bit too much inside his head and he lets his hubris dictate the way that he plays a game, specifically in the 4th quarter. If he reverts to that, and I think the main series in the East where he would is Detroit. But his Bickerstaff knows this and he plays to this. And Brunson fell right into that trap from the 1st quarter, and it only got worse as the game went on. I don't think he would do that with Harden and Cleveland or even Maxey and Philly, because he has proved himself he's better than all those guys. But Cade is a better player this year. And I think Brunson would look at that, and that could potentially be something that drags him into the worst parts of his personality and causes us to potentially lose that series.
Yeah, I love that. I agree. Because, it's hard because in parts of the season, Cat has not met up to his standards that we hold him to as Cat. But when you look at some of the stats, I'm going to give a shout out to Tommy Beer. He had an interesting post that makes you kind of see things a little bit differently. Cat this season averages more, has currently more rebounds than Jokic and Victor Wembanyama. He's got more points than Stephen Curry and LaMelo Ball. He's got more three-pointers made than Devin Booker or Shea Gilchrist-Alexander. He's got more steals than Evan Mobley or Rudy Gobert.
Okay.
He's got more double-doubles than Luka or Cade. And he's got more assists than Amin Thompson or Isaiah Hartenstein. And he's got a higher plus-minus than Jaylen Brown and Anthony Edwards. And so that's crazy because we see things like speculative based off of like
that's crazy, Phil.
We hold him to. Like, it's crazy when you step back and go there. And that's where I'm like, crap, maybe what we're seeing when Cat is not playing well is not necessarily a solely Cat issue. Because when he gets iced out by his own teammates, he's limited in his efficiency. And so we talked about it a few weeks ago when Lee was on the show, or it might have been last week, about how when Mikhail's best games this season have come when Jalen Brunson and him play less minutes together, and he's playing more minutes with Josh Hart and Tyler Kolek and other players that are finding him in cuts and on the outside more than Jalen Brunson.
I think it was like that last year too. Yeah.
So maybe that's the situation with Cat as well. Like, you go 5 for 5 and all of a sudden you stop shooting. Like, I never saw a Cat that just stopped shooting in Minnesota. Like, did he play some bad games? Yes. But I don't think I ever saw him just like stop shooting a game that he was 100%. Like, that's weird to me, you know, like that's
very weird.
Why? You know, like
that takes me to that conversation he had with Shaq. I forget after what game, it might have been after the Houston game, where Shaq was like, yo, like, you got to be that killer and like, you got to take over games. And he's like, nah, it's not about that. It's about winning. It's not about me. And he's like, nah, but you need to be an alpha dog for the Knicks to win. And Cat kept being like, nah, it's not about that. It's about the team and it's about winning. And it's like, well, you saw that shine through in this game against the Cavs. He wasn't trying to continue being that alpha dog. He was just like deferring team basketball. It's like, bro, like, if you got it going, sometimes you got to carry the team. And he's just not that type of killer. And that's what Charles Barkley was saying. He's like, yo, not everyone's a killer. And he ain't that. And then the thing, going back to what Lee said, is that the problem is that we need him to be that for us to win. And so now we're depending on him to buoy us, and he's not dependable. Well, he's just not dependable for us.
To clarify what Lee said, he was talking about Cat has to be good defensively, not necessarily offensively. But what I have noticed,
I thought you meant offensively. I think he needs to be good offensively too, though.
But it's both. It's a both and. It's not an either or situation. And the reason is because Karl Anthony Towns plays with more effort on the defensive end when he feels like he is included in the offensive end. Yes. When he feels like he is just wasting time on one half of the court, you see him be lackluster on the other. And it's one of those things. It's like, don't expect me to like do all the grunt work, but I can't eat at the table, you know, like that. Yeah. That's the thing. And so with Cat, I agree with Shaq in that he has to be aggressive. And the only thing, I understand his humility of this is a team, you know, it's all about the team.
I get that.
But you look at anything, you look at a restaurant. Okay. Well, you don't say, oh, I don't have to be a great host because it's just a restaurant. It's not about me. It's about everybody. Well, yes, but the cook should have the same standard of I need to be the best, as the server has to have the same attitude of I need to be the best. Why? Because your positions are different. Like, it's not like Jalen Brunson and Cat are both the starting point guard and only one of them can be great. Like, you can be as great as you can be. You can still be elite against somebody else that's elite. You look at the Chicago Bulls of the 90s. Yes, Jordan was the greatest scorer and, you know, one of the greatest two-way point guards at the time. but Scottie Pippen was still great. Like Scottie
Yeah.
Pippen always stepped
Yes.
on the court to be great. Dennis Rodman, not the same position, but Dennis Rodman always wanted to be the greatest in his position. Like, and so even if he grabbed like 20 boards that game and scored 0 points, he was still the greatest at what he did. And that is what I think there's an issue is like, I think sometimes JB feels like if someone else is being great that night, then he's not great. As opposed to we can all be great
together
because we have these skill sets, and that's why we were all brought in. So I think Cat needs to be a little more assertive, but also wise. Like, don't be so aggressive that your Shakira hips are knocking everybody down on your pick and rolls. You know, like put those things away. You know, not throwing elbows nonstop, because on the bench he's not effective for us at all. So I agree with Lee. He's got to be there defensively, but he also can't allow the game to be so Brunson minded that he becomes an afterthought. You're one of the best bigs in the league for years. And part of that is your shooting and your offensive prowess. Find a way to do both alongside Jalen Brunson.
I got a hot take, and you guys obviously you're free to disagree with me. I disagree on the offensive side. I actually think that Karl-Anthony Towns could be the third or fourth leading scorer for the New York Knicks, and we still win the chip. Now, in order for that to happen, Bridges and OG would obviously, conversely, have to increase their points per game. But to me, I think an inefficient, a lack of three ball, Karl-Anthony Towns will not stop us from winning a chip. I think we can win even despite that. What I think would stop us is him at the 5 not playing average defense, because the majority of his minutes will be at the 5, and he will probably play the second most minutes on the entire team after Jalen Brunson. So if he is a constant liability on defense, that is another guy that can be attacked, especially in conjunction with Brunson. Those two get put into action, and that's how we lose. That's how we lost against Cleveland, and that's how we'll lose against Detroit Pistons. I say this analogy for a reason, because it reminds me a lot of when Rasheed Wallace came to the Detroit Pistons. Wallace was averaging 17, 18 points a game. The season they won a chip, his first the team, his scoring average dropped down to 13. But you know what didn't? His defensive box plus minus and his defensive win shares. His defensive win shares were the second best of his career, the best up until that point. His defensive box plus minus was the third best of his career, the best up into that point.
You can't don't do that.
He came to a team. I'm saying someone whose offensive and defensive profiles are very similar. They're very similar players.
Think so?
Yeah, of course. Both of them play outside in. Neither of them were very gritty, grimy Jalen Duren type players as a roll man or as a post-up option. They were more finesse. They had good shooting touch, both in the mid-range. They were both excellent pick and pop players.
But defensively,
utilize them that way. What?
Defensively, Rasheed Wallace was way nastier.
Yes, he was, but he had not been known as a focal point or to be able to hold down the 5 until he came to Detroit, who needed him to be, because you didn't have that size elsewhere outside of Ben Wallace. So being able to man the 5 minutes at the 5 against someone like Shaq in the finals, right, who they won, but also play alongside Ben Wallace, who has that Mitchell Robinson type impact. There are similarities there. Wallace bought in, allowed his points per game to go down to almost a career low to that point, and focused on defense. I think Cat can at least be 80% of what Rasheed Wallace was during that championship run, especially when he's playing the 5. And if he does, I think that there's equivalency there in player profile type and art type. And I think if he does that, it's going to be very hard for anyone to beat us in a 7-game series.
I don't think he could do that. I don't think Cat can reach that level. Rasheed Wallace was way better defensively than he ever can be. No one till this point has gotten Cat to be able to move his feet. And he also lacks the focus to like pay attention to the game plan and execute the game plan. So my concern with the whole thing is like my buddy Don Melion was in here earlier, and he came up with a phrase, very simple phrase last year. He said, "No Cat, we whack," which means like Cat is pretty much going to take us as far as we can go. And that's the scariest part. Like without Cat, being good, very good, being a Rasheed Wallace. You want him to be like a Rasheed Wallace type of defender. Rasheed Wallace was an anchor on defense for us. You remember when Rasheed Wallace was on the Knicks? He was actually one of our defensive anchors.
I
Cat
don't know
is
about
not.
that, brother.
He was.
Tyson Chandler was. Rasheed Wallace barely even played.
Okay, you're right. There was Tyson Chandler. But Cat is not. He's never gonna be that, man. And that's the problem. Is like we actually do. I agree with you that we need him to get there for us to win. I just don't see it happening. I just don't. I wish I could. I just don't.
It's also important to remember that the type of center that was guarding back then is very different than how a center guards now.
That's true.
It doesn't have to be someone who as Rasheed Wallace was, defending Jermaine O'Neal with the Pacers, or then matching up against Shaq in the finals. He just needs to be able to close out in space against three-point shooters, and when he's guarding at the level, be able to fight over screens and guard two on a screen once the ball is passed. That's a very different defensive profile than what was asked of Rasheed Wallace in the 04 Pistons. So do I think Cat can do what Rasheed did in that era? Absolutely not. But do I think he can do what he needs to now? You have to remember what I'm saying, Al. I'm not even saying he needs to play Rasheed Wallace level defense. He needs to play average NBA defense for a 5.
I've seen Cat play good defense on the wing. Like I've seen him guard up. Like I think he had a couple of one-on-ones with Tatum last year. Like where he does decent. Yeah, he does decent one-on-one. He's horrible in pick and roll. He can close out well, but like other than that, like it becomes real dicey, man.
I agree, which is why I think that's more important than the offensive output. Him as a decoy will always be able to be beneficial to the offense and Brunson's gravity. But defensively, I worry a lot more about not just his effort, but also how Mike Brown uses him and who he pairs with him on the court. That's my worry. Where Tibbs, I didn't have that worry about who would be in the rotation with him at the 5 or how he would be used in space at the 5. Mike Brown, I don't know his tendencies. There's been so much experimentation. It's hard to really be grounded in what is a Mike Brown move.
My other thing with you saying that it's okay for him to take a step back offensively is that you're expecting the 2 most inconsistent players on the Knicks, who rank in the top 10 inconsistent players in the NBA, to all of a sudden have a consistent run of 3 playoff games into a championship. It's like I'd rather depend on Cat. Right? It's just like we're just making our lives even harder. So now we need Cat to play good defense, and we need these 2 inconsistent offensive players to all of a sudden become consistent for a whole playoff stretch. It's like that's like blue in our skies.
Every team has these type of hypotheticals that must happen in order for them to win. We are not the only team that operates within that framework, so that's important to level set and that we have greater expectations than anybody else.
Like Detroit shoots 3-pointers against us, but they suck against everyone else. I don't know how.
But I would say one more thing, Phil, and then I'll land the plane. Yes, you're right. Bridges and OG, I have more faith in them being more consistent in playoffs offensively than I do Cat defensively. That just like that on its own, right? 1-to-1, I have more faith in those 2. I don't think either have to average 25 points a series, but I think 18 for OG, 15, 16 for Bridges, to me, that's enough for both of them for us to win a chip.
Yeah. So the only thing I'll say to you, Al, I think that it's hard to get your mind wrapped around Cat being a Rasheed Wallace type defender, because Rasheed Wallace was
I have Knicks Rasheed Wallace jersey, authentic jersey. I love Rasheed Wallace.
What I'm saying though is like I don't think necessarily like Lee's saying that he's going to be on that caliber, but he has to play with that kind of assertiveness defensively and wisdom defensively. And one thing that we have to realize is a lot of those Rasheed Pistons like games, he was able to be as elite as he was because there was also a Ben Wallace who was an elite defender as well.
Facts.
So what can make sure that Cat is a better defender than a bad defender? Mitch, but also when Mitch is not out there, that's when OG and McHale need to be the guys that they were brought in to be. Like
Facts,
you have to make sure that if Cat is not the best defender out of you 3, that it takes those players some like wear and tear on their bodies going through you before they get to Cat. But instead, when those guys drop the ball and they see, they get straight to Cat, now it's Cat that has to make up the slack for them. It should be the other way around. Those guys are there to make up the slack for Cat, like not the other way around defensively. So Ben Wallace was there, which made Rasheed Wallace's job easier to do what he does well. It has to be the same way other side. OG and Mikhail need to make it easier for Cat to be a good defender. And so that's what we need to see there. We need those guys.
I don't think it's on them. I think we need to see that Ben Wallace. We need to see that Mitchell Robinson. What do you guys think about like having the twin tower lineups? We haven't seen it a lot this year. And I remember last year we were clamoring for it all the time. And now all of a sudden I don't see enough Knicks fans asking for that twin tower lineup.
I think we will see it more in a Pistons situation.
Yes.
Cavs too.
Yes, Cavs too.
Yeah, Cavs too.
Both.
And we'll see that. But here's the thing. What's the one thing we've been saying all year? That Mitch is playing at his highest level. And if we only get 20 minutes out of Mitch right now, to have him in for 26 minutes in the playoffs,
it's worth
it.
Yeah.
So I think you will see more of those double big lineups in the playoffs. I honestly, to Mike Brown's credit, I think that he is handling that situation well. Like,
agreed.
We are doing good enough that we don't have to risk Mitchell Robinson getting injured and preserve him for the playoffs and then let the dog loose, especially because we don't have a contract with him next year. Like, as much as I love Mitch, like, we still don't have that guarantee with him next year. So let the dog run loose in the playoffs. He's either going to earn that bag, or if he gets injured in the playoffs, that's when he gets injured, but not before when we need him. Preserve him as much as possible, and then let the dog bite the hell out of the teams that we're playing.
That's a lot of the problem with this team, is that there's so many unknowns, and everyone's just like, here's to hoping. Whenever I've come to hoping, things don't go the way you really expect them to go. So we're hoping that Mike Brown's going to go to more double big lineups. We don't know if he's going to do that. We're hoping that Cat can all of a sudden lock in and play better defense. We haven't seen him do that. So like a lot of and we're hoping that
But do we want to see him do that now? Do we want to see him do that now and risk the playoffs?
No, I'm okay with how we're managing him. We're hoping that OG and Mikal become more consistent shooters. All this hoping, guys, like that's the part to me, like whatever, it can happen, but it's super scary.
But every team's hoping.
Super scary.
Every fandom, every team is hoping. The Boston Celtics are hoping that they can stay at this position, and they're hoping that Jason Tatum can come back, because they know that in order to beat like a Pistons team or an OKC, that they're going to need Jason Tatum.
And that's everyone's hoping they stay healthy.
They're hoping, the OKC's hoping that everyone can stay healthy and that they can actually beat the Spurs if it comes to the playoffs. They're hoping. They haven't seen that they can beat the Spurs this season, but they're hoping they can. They're hoping that in 7-game series that their veteran presence is going to outweigh the, younger mentality of the Spurs. They're hoping. The Spurs are hoping that regardless of their inexperience, that their talent is good enough to get them there. Everybody's hoping in some way, shape, or form. The Pistons are hoping that they don't fall into what the Cavs fell into last year, having one of the most elite. Having one of the most elite records like the Cavs did, and then completely falling apart in the playoffs. The Pistons are hoping that they don't become this year's Cavs. So everybody's hoping in some way, shape, or form. I just think that we more so now than since I was watching the Ewing Starks Mason days, we have the most reason to actually have hope this year than we have since then. Like, this is the most reason to have hope because we have the most possibilities too. Like, even the adding of Sohan, like, may seem small, but you have a guy that can be a dog defensively and frustrate the living crap out of players. That's something we need. Even if he gets fouled out in 10 minutes of play, those 10 minutes of play are going to drive that other team crazy, and it's worth it. So I think that we have the most reason to hope.
I've tempered my expectations. I fully don't expect to go to the finals this year. That's just where I'm at. So like I'm not distraught at the end of the season.
Who beats us?
It'll be Detroit. But that's the thing. The funny thing about the playoffs is like every team that goes on a championship run, maybe not so much last year, but usually has a little bit of luck that goes their way. Like someone gets injured along their path or something happens. They have a little bit of luck that just helps them get all the way to the chip. And so you never know what happens when you get to the finals. So that's the only reason why I don't count us out. But my thing is like, I just am not placing expectations on this team. Like I expect this. They haven't shown me that I should expect that. Like if I'm Detroit and we're number one all year long, I expect to go to the Eastern Conference Finals minimum, right? That's the expectation. This team, the Knicks, like I'm just not gonna expect that right now for myself, for my own well-being.
Yeah, so I can understand that. I can understand tapering expectations about the finals. But what I will say,
surprised me great.
What I will say is, realistically looking, like even watching us lose to that Cavs game last night, I still have to go based off trajectory and history. Okay, Donovan Mitchell has never been able to put the final gravestone on Jalen Brunson. Like when games have mattered, Jalen Brunson has always come out on top of Donovan Mitchell. Okay, and then I look and I go, Mobley is great, but I feel like Cat is better than Mobley. If I look at Mitch playing more minutes, Jared Allen's not going to have the game that Jared Allen had the other day.
Yeah.
And then all the other players around, I go, yeah, the Knicks eat them like food. Like every other player, food compared to the Knicks roster. Okay? And so when I look at that, I don't see that as an issue. I see Boston coming back. Well, if Boston comes back, it's either going to be them or Detroit because they'll probably wind up seeing each other in the playoffs before we see one of those two teams. So one of those
depends.
teams.
Where do you think we're going to end up? Third or fourth or second? You think we're going to end up second?
Third.
I think we'll end up third.
I thought after the Cavs game, I thought we were going to end up fourth, but then Harden hurt his hand. So
yeah, I think we'll end up third
as well.
And so I'm hoping that Detroit and Boston see us before we see them. If we see Boston, I think we take them. I think we made enough changes in the offseason. They didn't. Tatum's still going to be a little rusty, and we were able to guard Tatum really well last year. So if we were able to guard Jason Tatum really well last year in one of his best seasons, I think we'd definitely be able to guard Tatum after he's only played maybe like 10 games before the playoffs. So the only hindrance I see is Detroit. And when it comes to Detroit, to me, it's not us losing because they have the better talent pool through and through, but because we play selfish and we don't actually utilize each and every person that we have on the roster. I think that's why we lose, not that they are better. Do I think that they have better players such as Cade? Yes, I think Cade is the best player on the court when it comes to our two teams playing. But what makes Cade better than us is that he makes role players great. Like you have a guy that can be great and make role players look great, even if they're not great. He makes them look good. Jalen Brunson needs to find a way to allow him and Cat to really, in a 7-game series, both be full contributors and make other people great. Make Mikal have those kind of games where Mikal's cutting, where they don't feel like all they have to do is triple team Jalen Brunson. So that's my final take on that.
Good night, folks. Phil and I have agreed on every single thing. I haven't disagreed with a single thing that he said. Enjoy your night. We will be here next Thursday.
We are good. We are good.
I agree with you, Phil. Obviously, I will say that if we don't reach the Eastern Conference Finals, I think Mike Brown's bald, shiny head's got to go. It needs to roll out of MSG. You fired Tom Thibodeau after making the ECF, defying even the front office odds. You hire someone to be the person that you say will help you reach your singular goal in that press release of winning an NBA championship, singularly focused, and he doesn't make the ECF, it's time to find another upgrade in mind. Now, that sounds chaotic, but it would be an admission that Leon made the wrong move. I do think we do make the ECF. And if we lose Detroit, a team with only one series under the belt, a loss to us, and we lose to them, that's going to look really, really bad, not just on Mike Brown, but specifically Jalen Brunson and the rest of his starting five. Because in my opinion, this Knicks roster is absolutely more talented than the Pistons roster. But as Phil said, Cade has that special X factor, which is he makes the players around him better to reach their potential at a higher rate and higher consistency than Jalen Brunson.
Yeah. I'll end on this. I do have a flight tomorrow. I agree with you that if we don't make it to the ECF, you can pack up Mike Brown.
Yep.
You can pack up Mikal Bridges.
Yep.
You can pack up Karl Anthony Towns.
Yep.
Or Jalen Brunson. One of those two.
Ooh, I'm not going that far.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying them two cannot coexist if we don't make it to the finals.
Agreed.
Like, is what I'm saying. Like, whatever the front office ends up deciding, I'm just saying, like, those two cannot continue. If we don't make it to the finals, I'm okay with Mike Brown staying if he can take us to the finals, take us that next step without being able to have any control of what the roster was in the offseason. Then you give him some leeway in the offseason to add some different pieces. But if we don't make it to the finals, I'm still packing up Mikal Bridges.
Facts.
I hate to say it. I did not care. Like I told Lee and the rest of the KOT, I did not care about the 5 picks. But when you operate and you show in the time that you're here that you have a higher ceiling than you're willing to play to because you're timid or you aren't willing to be aggressive or this, that, or whatever, and we see you be your own limitation, you can go. Like, when you show that your value has not added up to 5 picks, that we could have done something over time that kept us going, that we could have maybe traded Randall and a few of those picks and kept Dante, who you know would have at least brought that aggression to the New York Knicks and that fight and would lay down his body for a championship.
Yeah.
And you're going to be timid, you can go in the offseason if we don't make it to the finals. Like, if you're part of the reason we don't make it to the finals, you can go. I'm completely okay with that. Let's close off with what we think is going to happen in this next game. We got a game tomorrow, and who we go up against? We go up
Spurs on Sunday, bro. Spurs. That's the game.
All right. So let's just talk about the 2 games. You guys say, are we going 1-2, and which one, or 1-1, or 2-0, or 0-2, and say which game
who do we play tomorrow?
So we got the Bucks, and then we got the Spurs.
Yo, the Bucks been sneaky good all of a sudden. Have y'all noticed that with Cam Thomas and all that? They've been like winning games. I thought they were tanking. They're not tanking. They're trying to win games. I don't know what spot they're in, but I'm pretty sure they're like in the running for the play-in. So I think they're trying to make the play-in and bring Giannis back. That's what I think they're trying to do. So
they're 8-2 in the last 10 games. It's crazy.
Yeah, see, you see, like that. People are gonna be like, this game should be a walk in the park. I guarantee you it's not going to be, especially because it's a look-ahead spot. We're probably already thinking about the Spurs and being like, yo, we got to perform against the Spurs. So I bet you the Milwaukee Bucks game is going to be tighter than expected. Fan base is going to be upset about that. And then we got to play the Spurs, who have been, bro, they've been like a top 3 team in the NBA. I do not expect to win that game, just flat out. I hope that we win the Bucks game. I think we should win that game, but I think it's going to be tougher than expected. So I think we go 1-1.
Okay. What are your thoughts, Lee?
I don't think the talent differential between Milwaukee and the Knicks is even close, specifically without Giannis. I also don't think the Knicks lose back-to-back games at this point of the season, especially to a team that is not even guaranteed to make the play-in. So I'm going to say 2-0. I think the Knicks course correct, right the ship. I think we beat the Bucks. I think it's confidence to face the Spurs. I mean, the Spurs, same way Detroit had us circled on the schedule, this New York Knicks team should absolutely have San Antonio circled on the schedule, specifically at home, which is going to be a few home games before we go on a very long road stretch. So we better put belt to ass to San Antonio.
They should have had Detroit and the Cavs circled too. So you expect them to have a Western Conference team? Why would we care about? We don't need to prove anything to the Western Conference. We need to perform against the Eastern Conference.
I disagree. I think we need to perform against any team that is deemed a championship contender, and San Antonio is. So I would say that we do. And the fact that we did not have a Cavs and the Detroit Pistons game circled, to me, is further incentive for us to really buckle down and focus on this stretch at home, getting these two under the belt before we go on the road. If we don't,
you seem in very orange and blue skies to me, Lee. Today.
I mean, I just agree with Phil that if we don't make the finals, that like 3 of the main 5 players associated with the Knicks and coach need to go. So I'm a realist. I'm not saying chip right now. We're talking about the next 2 games, one against a non-playoff team, one against a very young championship contender. Yes, I think we have a good chance to win both those 2 games.
Yeah. Okay. No, I love us, being able to agree and disagree. Me personally, I'm going to say 1-1. I don't feel like we should lose to the Bucks. I feel like if we do, that's definitely going to be frustrating. Spurs, for me, it's hard to say with, the Spurs that I think we're going to get a W, because right now they're on a 11-game win streak, and they've beaten some pretty good teams in that stretch, such as OKC, such as the Warriors, such as the Suns, the Pistons. They beat the Pistons by 11, and Pistons have been our kryptonite. So for me, the reason I say, not just because of their win streak, but the reason I say that is I feel like teams that play where they allow their roster to all be included in the game on both ends of the court, I think the Knicks have a harder time with, because I feel like we don't do that as well as some of those other teams. And if you look at the Spurs, everyone from Vassell to Castle to Wimby, they're all contributing each and every night. They are a team that continues to make each other better, kind of similar to what we saw in the Pistons. You have Luke Cornett looking like a stud. Like, we had Luke Cornett with us and we thought he was going to be out of the NBA. Then he goes, plays with Boston, does a little bit good, but now he's looking incredible in the Spurs. Like, they have found a way to really pour into one another, and you have multiple players that are able to contribute, and they all play for one another.
They lock in on defense too. They lock in on defense. They're all good defenders.
When you talk about like Fox and Champagne and Harrison Barnes, and they're like, and Keldon Johnson, and they're like the players that are being talked about later in the conversation, as opposed to the Wimbys and the Castles and the, I have to go, I don't know if we can compete with that. So for me, I think we lose that game, because they're more selfless in how they play basketball. And I think that for us to contend against them, we have to play selfless as well. And I don't see us doing that, because if I see Jalen Brunson trying to match that star for star, like, battle, they're too tall and too defensively talented for Jalen Brunson to prove his point in that game. So that's why I would say we go 1-1. But we'll see. We'll talk next week about what the outcomes of that are. We also end up, having another 2 games before we'll talk to you guys again. We will talk about the Raptors, and as well, we'll see OKC before we talk next Thursday. So we'll have a lot to talk about next Thursday. So Lee, let everybody know where they can find you.
On Twitter @_ Lee Escobedo, LeeEscobedo. Got some fire coming out for The Guardian this week, and a piece coming out for Bleacher Report. Also have my first essay for The Nation on Steph Curry's investment in IDF surveillance tech. That'll be both in print and online. So still writing about my essay for The Guardian on Robert Parra, the Memphis Grizzlies owner, investment in Ukrainian drone technology, comes out on Saturday as well.
When are you starting Fanside?
Next week.
Fanside. And what day is that? Do you know?
Not sure yet, but definitely producing the short form videos already.
Nice.
Awesome.
All right, looking forward to that.
What's up? I'll tell everyone where to find you, bro.
You can find me on Twitter, SemiAuto155. That's where I talk all my Knicks stuff. I do also have another podcast called Nick Life Crisis. We will be going live after the San Antonio game on Sunday. We've never done a post-game live. This will be our first post-game live. So if you could come through, lock in, let's talk about it. I think this is a big game, so I think we're going to have a lot to talk about. So pull up. Nick Life Crisis is the name of the show. Sunday after the game. See you then.
All right. And I'll end on this. We got some bad news. Miles McBride will not be joining the team for games until at least the playoffs. He is deemed out for the rest of the season, which some of us were expecting could possibly be the case. But kind of hard to, try to re-implement someone of his caliber, at that point in the season, especially after getting two new players in Alvarado and Sohan that are falling into the roster right now. So we will see how that goes. Like always, appreciate you guys all. If you drink responsibly. Make sure you are not getting behind the wheel. Make sure you are looking out for others and yourself. And like always, we appreciate you guys. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Support everybody here at the KOT family. These are my peoples. They are killing it. And this is a great place to come and subscribe and talk Knicks because everyone's got an opinion, but at least it's thought out. May not always be agreed, but it's thought out. Facts. And that's the best part about Knick fandom is we can disagree as long as you have reasons for believing what you believe and not just that you're emotionally crazy. So we thank you guys so much for being here. We appreciate you guys all. And until next time, God bless and let's go Knicks.
This is the moment we waited for. Everything you want is right here. We gon' give them what they came for. We gon' take it up from last year. Shoot 'em my shot, boy, I'm long range. Me and the team on the same thing. Stayed down, never switched up. Only thing changed was the game. I'm in the zone now. Nothing can change what we on now. When I pull up, know it's going down. Foot on the gas, ain't no slowing down. Aiming for greatness, no